bargained with. It can't be reasoned with.
You just don't turn it off!
Goodbye, bro. Come with me if you want to live.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backtrack Cinema. Here we are for my 1 year anniversary, everybody. And I got my good friends down here, Caleb in the bottom, Nick, and Wolfman from the Megamoviez channel. And we're going to, this is going to be a good show tonight. The main topic will be our top 5 movie franchises. And then we got a look back at Backtrack Cinema over the last year where I rebranded. If you guys know me from a long time ago, I was the J-Man's Movie Cave. And then we're going to go into the future of Backtrack Cinema and all that jazz. But first, I'm going to talk to the panel. Welcome to the show, guys, tonight. So, Caleb, how are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me back on once again. Good to see everyone.
Absolutely. Nick, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. And congrats on the 1 year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
man. I can't believe it. It flew by. It flew by. Absolutely flew by. And I got a longtime friend, Wolfman from Megamoviez. We used to do collaborations on the old channel. It's been a while. How you doing, dude?
It has been a while. I always love it when I collab with you, and congratulations on 1 year, man. Yeah, you and I have been friends for such a long time, and it's just made me very proud to see how far you've come from your last channel to having this new channel, and just how big it is, and just like the success that you're having makes me, as your friend, really happy for you. So,
yeah, well, we gotta give thanks to Nick for that. He when he rebranded, I rebooted. I thought, you know what, this channel's not doing nothing no more, and I was kind of not in a very good place at the point. I took a big break, as you guys all know. I came back and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do something. I'm going to shift it. So I shifted it more to action, 70% action, 30% horror. And it just seemed to work. Things have just been landing lately. So this past year. So yeah, I'm happy for it. And one of my good followers, Ledger Forever, as long as Rocky's in the top 3, I'm happy. I don't know. He might not even be on this list. I don't know.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, Rob's Vintage Video, who I met at a convention in Niagara Falls here, where I got the lovely Kimberly Beck. Oh my God, I finally met her. Awesome person, my favorite Friday Final girl. So that was fun. I saw Rob there. He's a big VHS guy, so go check his channel out. Rob's Vintage Video, great dude. Lives right here in Ontario, so we're probably going to hook up for a collab like together physically. So. Yeah, he has a huge VHS store and everything like that. So awesome stuff. But yeah, I just got to send thanks to all my subscribers, all my followers who follow me on Instagram, Facebook, on the channel, who have been there in the comments. The comment section is always full. Well, full enough for me anyway to keep up. So I appreciate you guys. We're at 626 subs now, 53,000 views the last time I checked for this last year. And I just started YouTube memberships. So you guys can go ahead and check those out on the channel if you're interested in that. Get back to my branding. And my first YouTube member is here with me. Nick's right here. So give him a big shout out right there. He's the first one. A lot of room, guys.
Awesome.
He's joined the Backtrack Cinema Baker Team Badasses. So anybody who knows First Blood will know what I'm going after here. So, yeah. So a big thank you to you, Nick, for
no problem
joining the club. Who else is here?
Yeah.
Oh, David, congratulations! You will become a legend. Thank you, dude. Leisure Forever says Mission Impossible, Rambo, and John Wick are my 3 favorites. Action dude. He's an action dude.
Oh,
this
yeah.
kid.
Good choice.
It's like when I was 14, man. I was this like, but I was like Stallone Arnold. I was just,
They were the powerhouses of the time.
oh yeah, and everyone check out Sly's documentary. It's probably one of the best I've ever seen. It's so good. It
Wow.
is so good, man. I just got to watch the Arnold one now. All right, so we got some stuff to watch first, guys. So sit back and relax. We're gonna watch. Where is it? Backtrack Cinema, 1 year old. So here's just a little video, guys, of the last year, kind of done in about a couple minutes. So let's sit back, everyone, in the comments. Enjoy. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Backtrack Cinema, and my name is Jason Knight, formerly known as the J-Man from the J-Man's Movie Cave. Backtrack Cinema is all about talking about movies from the past that you love and you want to see. It's Bloodsport, it's the fight, it's the tournament, and they spend a lot of time. When I go to pick a Bronson movie, I typically put this one on because it's just Bronson taking out the trash. He goes, "On your feet, soldier! On your feet!" You just gotta write a good character. Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley were just good characters who happened to be women. Fantastic. Just absolutely great stuff. Top 50 80s films of all time, and brutal, and they're just pounding the piss out of each other. Be no trouble if it wasn't for those king shit Halloween fans. You're shitting arm off, boy. Ugly motherfucker. She's a fantastic actress. I watch this like 6 times a year. I love it so much. It's just so accessible and entertaining and fun. So many memories watching this with my family too, and my older cousin. There's nothing better. Let me tell you, there is nothing better when you can watch an action film. Be on the edge of your seat. The lights coming down on them, and it's just so intense and energetic. Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I'll see you in the movie, man. See you in the movies. See you in the movies.
Cool.
Hey, yeah, that was 1 year. So just a couple clips here and there of the last year on YouTube, and yeah, it's been fun. And yeah, and what about the future though, guys? What is coming in the future? To all my audience out there, if you're watching after the fact too, if you're new, subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss out on the future. As you all know, it's Backtrack Cinema, so I talk older movies. I may be doing, if I see a new movie, I might just do a YouTube short rather than a review on, like a review I do, because I just talk older movies. But big year planned, a big year planned. So what you're about to watch is all subject to change, obviously. But this basically is just going to be a template. Hopefully, I'll follow through for the next year. So I know I'm a planner, but here we go. yeah. Hell yeah. So we will be covering from the 1930s all the way to modern movies. Different template, different theme every month. So there'll be a lot of movies to talk about. And Caleb and I, for March, will be doing Godzilla and King Kong as a huge collaboration together. I think we're going to be doing watch-alongs on his channel, reviews on mine, and then and some other stuff. Me and Caleb are going to talk about it for a bit, but it's gonna be a fun year, man. I planned this out and said this is, I think, basic template, guys. It's a basic things could change. I might do like something completely different on a month, but I'm excited. It will keep me more organized and stuff. So we got my Chunky Jordy says, hi everyone, don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you so much. And my Chunky Jordy, I always forget your name, so I apologize. So I really do apologize. But I'll call you Jordy for now. You just punch your name into that chat because I keep forgetting. But very, very good follower of mine. Always talking movies all the time. So yeah, let's get into it now, guys. Let's get into the main show. So yeah, so thanks again, guys, for everything. Big year coming up on YouTube and all that jazz. And you know, there's YouTube memberships available, all that kind of stuff. So all right, let's get into what we got here. Where is it? This one.
Ooh.
Move you guys over here like that. All right. Our top 5 movie franchises with 3 honorable mentions. So I'm going to go around the clock. Caleb, Nick, Wolfman, then myself. So, Caleb, what do you got for your first honorable mention?
First honorable mention is Friday the 13th. My introduction to horror and a sort of larger scope was through Friday the 13th, the game that was done by Ilphonic and Gun Media. And from playing the game, I watched the movies. And from watching Friday the 13th, I got into Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that jazz. So that's my honorable mention. And because I am such a big fan of the franchise now, that's where I put it.
Awesome. Nick, what you got for your first honorable mention?
I'm gonna go with Alien. Pretty consistent franchise. Quality dips a bit, but I like how the storyline continues with Ripley, at least for the first 4 films. And same with the Prometheus and Covenant. You get that nice storyline that connects. Ripley's just such an awesome character to follow, and the alien is a really awesome creature design. Just a franchise that I return to quite often.
Awesome. Wolfman?
So I can already tell you I regret my honorable mention because this is probably going to be in my top 5 by tomorrow. Literally text me tomorrow and it will probably be in my top 5. Like and that's how just unconfident I am in my top 5 here. But my first honorable mention, only because it's such a new franchise. So ask me in like 5 more years and I can definitely tell you, yeah, this is in the top 5. But for now, like number 6, like in my honorable mentions is John Wick. Like once this franchise has more time, then I feel like I'd be able to say like, yes, this is the greatest like maybe one of the greatest action franchises out there. This is just such every single film seems to escalate itself. You know how there's like you have your first film that's like a more of a personal story that's actually kind of emotional story, very simple story though, of revenge and even redemption. And then you get the second one that builds more of the lore and how the world works and all that stuff. And then the third one, and each one just keeps on ramping the action. Then the fourth one comes out and I'm sitting there in the theater watching the fourth one. And most of the time I'm saying, how the hell did they pull this off? Like, how did they do this? Like, I don't know how this is conceivable in an actual movie. Like, this is insane. Like, from every single fight scene. And the way it kept on escalating itself up and up and up again. And these are truly action masterpieces. And this is one that I ask me in a few more years, and it would very likely be in the top 5. The only reason I don't have it in there is all my top 5 I have in there. Have in my top 5 for more personal reasons. So, yeah,
it's a good choice. It's a good choice. All right, my Chucky Jordy says I've not watched John Wick because of the puppy. She just says her name is Gina, but George is fine. He's my avatar and old Jack Russell. Okay, Gina, I got you now. Gina. All right. My first honorable mention is I'm gonna go with what Nick said, and that's the Alien franchise. This was a last minute change because what was originally here was Nightmare on Elm Street, but when I started thinking about the downfall of Nightmare on Elm Street, it's just got too many bad movies that just couldn't save it enough. Whereas Alien, I'll be honest with you, there's some duds, but I enjoy this for the most part. And from what then, I don't know how true this is. Maybe Wolfman keeps up with a lot of movie news, but apparently Ridley Scott likes this new Fede Alvarez movie. He's really digging it, so that could be some hope in there. But I do like, you guys know I love Aliens. I love the original Alien. You know, I'm actually a big fan of Prometheus and Covenant, so this franchise definitely an honorable mention for me.
I don't know whatever happened to the TV series. There was supposed to be like a TV series that was coming out, and then it was going to lead to like a Predator series, and we were going to have like it was going to be like actual TV shows. But that would have been really cool. I never got that.
The Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast, Rapid Fire Brandon Lee would have been still around today had it not been for the tragedy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think the director of John Wick replaced Brandon Lee in The Crow. I think when he was getting the makeup on and everything. I think that's what Darren's referring to. Yeah. I'm pretty sure anyway. But yeah, it's great franchises. Good honorable mentions, guys. So what is your next honorable mention, Caleb?
Alien.
Okay.
It's literally on my list. I had to process it and going through my list. Alien is another franchise I grew up with. It's actually sort of congruent with one of the films I actually have in my, or not films, but film franchises that I have in my top 5 list. Like I watched both of these simultaneously just because 2004 had the crossover. So, but with Alien, I watched Aliens first. Don't know why. I think that's just how my dad had showed it to me. And then he showed me Alien, and then I got into Alien 3, which the first time I watched Alien 3 was on VHS. Like the DVDs were out, but I watched it on a VHS tape. And I was like, I liked parts of it, but then I also didn't really like the ending necessarily because it was more so the whole movie. But anyway, I don't want to get into that right now. But I enjoy Alien mainly for the first 2 films. I used to like Prometheus, but not as much anymore. But I think that the one I dislike the most, besides maybe Alien Resurrection, would be Alien Covenant. I have my reasons for that. But for the most part, I like the franchise. I like Ripley. The xenomorph design is very unique. It's one of the more terrifying sci-fi creatures that looks really good. Very well done. H.R. Giger's designs were very perverse and twisted, but there was a beautiful quality about it, which is weird, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, between Alien and Aliens, it's kind of like the T1, T2 effect. You know what I mean? The first 2 are clearly the strongest movies. I mean, I don't think any of us would argue that. But we got Daner Bobaner. Daner, my man. Alien, well, to be fair, there's only 2 good movies in that series. I'm trying to imitate him, but I can't. He's just
I'm like sitting here being like, I love y'all guys, but y'all are like overhyping Alien. I think, like, I love the first 2 movies, but the rest of the franchise,
Alien Resurrection almost feels like an erotic parody.
Erotic.
That's funny. Nick, what do you got for your next honorable mention, buddy?
What to choose? I think I'm gonna go with Batman on this one.
Batman.
All the Batman
Nice.
movies, yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Interesting superhero because he has no superpowers, but I just like how dark the character can get, especially seen with the Nolan trilogy. But yeah, I love the Tim Burton films. Of course, Batman and Robin is their downfall, but they learned their lesson, and the franchise is back on track with the Batman, and hopefully the Batman 2 can be just as good. And yeah, I just appreciate how it has a more mature stance on the comic book genre. And yeah, great character.
He definitely is. Wolfman, what do you got?
So there's another horror franchise that will be in my top 5. This horror franchise, arguably, you can say it's more consistent than the one I'll have in my top 5. But the one I have in my top 5, I have in there for more personal reasons. But for me, in my honorable mentions, I gotta mention Evil Dead. I mean, this is to me the most consistent franchise probably in horror, because like each one of them, I was a little disappointed in Rise, I gotta say, but each one of them though were
Evil Dead.
Nice.
were like each one before that at least where it's like really, really good. And Ash Williams has got to be like the greatest like protagonist in a horror franchise like ever. You know, everyone loves Ash Williams, and even the show. Honestly, the show is like maybe even better than the movies. Like it's like, it is that good. Like it's almost that good. It's almost as good as like the movies are. Like it is insanely good. And I would have loved to see them continue off of that show as like a movie form and make that Evil Dead Rise and such. Like I would have been really cool to see him continue off that story, even without Ash. He has a daughter now. He's got his friends that you can have in there, stuff like that. Like people are connected to those characters. That would have been a cool way to continue the story forward. It's one of the best horror franchises for sure.
Yeah, it really is a good friend. I haven't seen the new Evil Dead yet, but I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah.
I've heard good things. I've heard mostly good things actually. I haven't heard many people say it was
It wasn't bad. No,
Yeah.
no, it was more.
Gina says, I saw Alien on TV early 80s when I was about 6. My brother got me a copy of Aliens when it was released. Great choice. Oh yeah.
But to say that you have 5 movies in your franchise and not one of them is bad, it's like, yeah, that's really...
that's a good track record, man. That's a good track record.
Oh yeah.
Daner, Batman.
It's one of the few horror franchises that was able to remain consistent, like you said. Like, there's not really a weak entry per se. I know some people don't like Evil Dead 2013. I don't mind it too much. I think it would have been better suited if they had made it officially with the rest of the franchise. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Ledger says, Aliens is my 3rd favorite movie ever. I hear you there, buddy. Which is why I despise Alien 3 so much. I know it's heartbreaking. Yeah, no, Alien 3 is so hard to get through that opening that it's like you might as well just fucking rip my heart out, kick me in the fucking balls, leave me for dead. Like, yeah.
And then Halloween Resurrection said, "Let's do it ourselves."
Oh my dear, right?
Yeah.
I just said, did you guys see the teaser for Terrifier 3? I haven't even seen Terrifier 2 yet.
No, and the teaser was only exclusive in theaters right now.
And they were the whole cast, everything was at the convention I was just at. But there were so many people at this convention. You guys don't even know. Like it was like crazy.
Hey, shameless plug on my channel, guys. Y'all can find an interview I did with Casey Hartnett, one of the actresses from Terrifier 2. So
true.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, good interview. I remember.
Yeah.
Right. Daners, well, I think Scream could be argued as more consistent. Yeah, it's pretty consistent franchise.
Yeah.
You like that shit. I'm just joking, guys. All right, time for me. What do I got here? Let me see. I actually made pictures, so. Oh dear. Okay, these 2 honorable mentions were hard, very hard, but I am gonna go with my boy Predator.
Predator.
I know a lot of you are probably expecting this to be in my top 5, but when we get to my top 5, it's just we'll discuss it. But Predator is awesome. I love Predator 2. You know, AVP Requiem. You know, that Predator right there, the Predator dog shit as hell, which really was a factor in deciding this. Like some of these movies were a factor. That's why I thought about it. And Predators, I like it, but there is some tiny issues with it. But I still love it. I love the creature design. I love the Predator. It seems like Prey has got the fans a little bit excited again, and I'm hearing this No Man's Land kind of movie that's maybe coming next. I don't know if that's a rumor. I think it's a rumor for right now, but it looks like they're going to be taking Predator and just putting them in different places in time now. I don't know if that's a good thing in the long run, but we'll see how everything pans out. But I love Predator, but that original movie and Predator 2, I think, are my favorite. You know, you got Arnold in one, Danny Glover kicking ass in the other. They're both really good, I think. But the original Predator is such a classic, and it's just a movie that is just like so good. It's a movie that is just so good. I've reviewed it on the channel. There's just so much about that movie I love, from the manliness and just the actors in it, and it is kind of a time capsule where it is this over the top 80s action movie, but it's also a very good blend of genres that switches this tone and does have this tension to it that doesn't get enough credit, I think. Because people think of this movie, they just think of big buff guys taking out this alien, where I think it's a little more than that, and I think it deserves a lot more credit than that. And with Predator 2, it's good too. It's him in the concrete jungle, right? But I have a feeling we're gonna be talking about this franchise later too. So,
and talking about consistency, it's also like I like Alien and Aliens more than I like any Predator film. But as far as a franchise overall, like I'd argue the Predator franchise is more consistent than the Alien franchise, only because Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Alien Covenant, all these are it's just like bottom of the barrel type stuff. But that's one bad movie, one really, really bad movie out of like a franchise that's got, even the AVP films, they're not great, but I can have fun with them, I'm like, they're enjoyable. They're like,
like I said, this is hard. This is top 5 here. So, and it was tough. It was tough. But because you guys know, I love Predator. I'll always be excited for a Predator movie. Even if it if it ends up being dog shit, it's one thing, but I'll always get excited for it. Let's get this question out of the way for Nick there. Nick, did you see the new Mission Impossible and Expendables movie?
Not yet. Watching them this month. They're both on
Watch
my
them
list.
this month. There you go.
I'm not watching Expendables.
I postponed them for October. That's why. They're all my October content, but I will be getting on them.
Daner says, remember that picture I sent of my 3-year-old nieces watching Predator? While I was watching it, they didn't ask me to change it. They must have been taken by the colorful Predator vision. My son loves it. It's just one of these movies with this pace, and it has everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, no matter what generation you're talking about, kids are going to gravitate towards a guy like Arnold. I mean, the guy he's just charismatic like they all are. But all right, last honorable mention for this round, guys. Caleb, what's your last honorable mention?
So this is one of those that I was contending to put on the top 5, but it made an honorable mention. So it's Rambo. Rambo is one of my honorable mentions. I didn't grow up with Rambo as much as I did the rest of the franchises on this list. With that said, when I did catch up with it, which was fairly early on in my life, it wasn't too late that I got into it, but I was captivated by Stallone. Like, I remember seeing my dad watch Rocky so many times, but for whatever reason at the time, I could never really get into it. But then he was like, all right, you can't get into Rocky. You like Predator, you like Aliens. Sit down for Rambo. I was like, okay. And that's how that started. Now, the funny thing is, I have still yet to watch Rambo 3. That is the one Rambo film I haven't watched yet. But I've watched every other Rambo film. I love this franchise. Not so much the most recent one, because I think that Rambo 4 was the best ending you could give for a character a proper send off. But most of the films in this franchise I love, and Stallone just as badass as ever. He reminded me of Arnold and Predator, so that's one of the things that really hooked me on. He's a great character. Rambo as a character is very complex. He's got this tragic past. I love it. So, Rambo,
Nice.
honorable mention.
All right. Ledger says, "Is your son old enough for Predator? He's 8 years old. We shave him dry. He's got to grow up to be a man. He has to watch Predator. The fucking movie's a fucking rite of passage, for fuck's sakes. He has to. 8 years old, you're watching it. Sit down, son." My son loves it. Yeah.
He's not old enough for the Predator though, because no matter what age you are, you should not watch that movie.
Not be subjected to it.
Ledger says Rambo is top 3, and Jordy says, "I love the Fast and Furious franchise. So goofy and fun. There is fun to be had in that franchise. I'll be honest. It gets a bit much." Dana, just like Indy riding off in the sunset in the third and final Indiana Jones movie, eh, Kayla?
Piss off.
Yeah, we'll get to some of that stuff. Nick, your last honorable mention.
Damn, I'm looking at my 21 honorable mentions I have written down. And, my next one I was glancing at was Rambo as well. Yeah, like you said, the worst movie in the franchise is mediocre. It's not even a bad movie. So, I mean, for a franchise, 5 movies?
Yeah.
Pretty good. And they set it up in the first movie to make you love this character right away. So even when he goes into the 80s, more over the top action and stuff like that, we still respect the character. And I just love, how it has the good message of, the soldiers never get the respect they deserve, especially going through the shit they go through and then come back home. And the action's awesome. They really up the gore in the later entries. And it's just a fun time from start to finish.
Yeah,
absolutely. Wolfman, your last honorable mention.
Okay, so this was so hard for me because this one I almost put in the top 5. I already had it in the top 5 yesterday, and I took it out thinking about some of the other ones. So I might even put it back in. But when I'm looking at these films, is it safe to argue that this might be the most consistent film franchise of all time? It's 8 movies, and every single one of them is good to maybe great. That's Harry Potter. Literally, this for this film franchise doesn't have a bad movie in it.
I wouldn't know because other than the first one,
other than Fantastic Beasts, but I'm not counting Fantastic Beasts. those movies are not that great, but the actual Harry Potter movies themselves, I grew up with. These were a big part of my childhood. I watched them all the time when they did those ABC Family things, and they would play them on there, have those marathons. I was so into this. I went to Universal. I went to the Harry Potter world, had the butterbeer stuff and the wand. I was big into this franchise. And so it's always had a special place in my heart. And honestly, the last one is my favorite one, Deathly Hallows Part 2. But then you have also some of the other ones that are the third one is excellent. The fourth one has great action in it. All these other ones, it's so consistent. And that's why I had to put it at least in my honorable mentions. I had a hard time leaving this off my 5, but it'll be hopefully for good reason. I don't know.
Nice. I've only watched the first one. I got to give it a chance sometime, but
I bought it up there.
Ledger says Last Blood has a great ending in my opinion, but I mean, I'm probably biased because I prefer the serious gritty Rambo to the over-the-top cheesy Rambo. Well, let me say something about the Slide documentary. He mentions Last Blood. He does make a good point about that movie, about the way he shot that ending, and he said, it's a character who is never going to win. It's a character who's never going to be at peace. I get that, but it's just that number 4, like Caleb said, was so
Yeah.
perfect. And yeah, he was at some peace in his life, right? He came full circle and everything. But
yeah, I mean, go with Rambo 4 if you want the serious gritty Rambo. That's where part 4 comes back to, because that's how we're introduced to the character.
However, and I don't want to talk about this too long on the channel because I know this is a movie channel, but like Rambo Last Blood, I gained a lot of respect for. I don't love the film. It's one of my weakest films in that franchise. However, I gained a lot of respect for it after the political talk about it. Like that, there was some dumb politics on that movie that I'm like,
oh yeah, it was stupid.
I was like, when people were complaining about it over that, and I was like, guys,
personally, it's not a dumpster fire at all. It's just, and actually, I kind of like it more. I'm in the middle. It's actually middle of my ranking because I like emotion, and I thought there was some really good emotion in that movie.
Like it did not deserve the worst picture of the year at the Razzies.
Oh
like
no,
like that is a joke.
No, right? I mean, for me, it's just I think that for me, it's hard to get invested in these new characters that we've never seen before. Like this niece, or I forgot who she was, that gets kidnapped. It's hard for me to get invested in that character because they play her up as being very important to Rambo's life, but it would have been better if he had a character from earlier entry in the franchise to connect with. I mean, there's not really much you could pick from because Rambo didn't make too many, connections that we had seen.
At one point, there was going to be a Rambo movie where it had to do with Trotman's daughter. Trotman was dead now. Trotman was dead now, and his daughter was a character. And just the fact that this is Trotman's daughter sent Rambo into this. And keep in mind, he had to scrap Last Blood. Last Blood was supposed to be John Rambo, that storyline. But at the time, Taken come out, and Stallone went, "Shh, can't do it now." Like Taken beat him to the punch, basically. And so he did John Rambo. So if you look at Last Blood as the 4th movie, and then he's injured, he gets away, he leaves the farm, and then John Rambo is the last movie. And it really makes sense. Think of how disconnected emotionally he is. Maybe it's because of that niece girl. If you showed her earlier, and then he comes back to the farm where he wreaked havoc of it, the only thing you'd have to explain is the cops would be after this dude. He'd be the FBI. He would be, but I think they did them in the wrong order. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be kind of weird, though, to explain why he would come back to the States and then leave again.
Exactly.
I mean, because with Rambo 3, he's not back home. And Rambo 4 was all about, it's his last war before he gets to go home. That's why, I mean, because for me, there's nothing to really invest me in seeing Last Blood. Like, I mean, if I have to do it for a review again, I wouldn't mind it because aside from the story, which I don't like, the action is really where it's at for me. That last 30 minutes where he's just cutting these dicks down. I mean, that is just pure octane, adrenaline, bloodthirsty monster just kicking ass. I mean, seeing Stallone do that doesn't get old for me. No. So on that level, I can enjoy Last Blood, but at the same time, I need a good story to complement the violence, which is what Rambo 4 was.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a better movie for sure. Ledger says, has it been confirmed that Last Blood takes place for John Rambo? No. That's just my own theory. After. It takes place after. What it is, his father died, and that lady, the lady who's taking care of John, and that was his father's caregiver. And now she takes care of John. And he raised this niece, but maybe they needed a good 20 minutes of showing him John raising her. I think that's what Caleb would have needed to really invest in her character more. But I get what Caleb's saying. Works for me though. Film Kid's here. He says, "Hi, how you doing, Film Kid? What's going on, brother?
What's up?"
Ledger says the heart scene is brutal. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's not get whose turn is it? Is it my turn?
Yeah,
my turn.
Yeah.
All right, my last honorable mention, guys, is I got a picture here. So it's this baby right here, and that is Psycho. I got this a little above Predator just because Psycho is my favorite horror film of all time. It's between that and Nightmare on Elm Street. And Psycho 2 is awesome. Psycho 3 is awesome. Not as good as Psycho 2, but it's still good. And Psycho 4 I dig too. And if you're adding the show, the Bates Motel show, this thing is just awesome. I love Psycho so much. I love the character of Norman Bates. It's a great franchise. It's a great character, and to be able to take an original classic that changed the game years later, 22 years later, bring this character back, do something a little different with it. That's amazing. To take a Hitchcock film and do that with Psycho 2. Only thing I'm not really big on is that they kind of retcon Psycho 3 back, saying it is his real mother. The only thing I don't like about Psycho 2 is that it's not his real mother.
Right.
I just thought that was, but I get for the sake of the story. And I get what Psycho 3 had to do and go, I think we should go back to the way it was. But it's kind of like confusing with Psycho. They kind of shoehorn something in there in Psycho 3. And Psycho 4 is a good time with the radio station and everything. And Olivia Hussey is absolutely fantastic in that. And I love Olivia Hussey in that movie. I think she plays a great Norma Bates. But Psycho is, I've often said it's the most underrated horror franchise. Everyone keeps talking about horror franchise, never mentions Psycho, and I'm like, I don't know why. I mean, it's a consistent franchise. It's very consistent, actually. There's not much continuity errors in it, really. And I just love I love everything about it, really. I just love it. So yeah, Psycho's my last honorable mention. All right, before we get to our top five.
Huh? You forgot one film.
I don't count the fucking remake. It's the original all over. I hate Vince Vaughn in that freaking movie, man.
I know his giggles.
Oh god. Ledger says, have you seen the extended cut of Last Blood? I'm in Canada. I'm not allowed to see it. They don't allow us to see it in Canada. It's not on a Blu-ray anywhere. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why that is.
I didn't even know there was any extended cut.
There's a horse scene. There's like a river scene. He saves a bunch of people on a they say it's a much better opening to the film.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like in a green rain jacket. It's a storm and everything, and he saves all these people and all this kind of jazz. So yeah, it's supposed to be quite good. All right. Feel free to talk about your top 5 a lot more, guys. You want to evaluate all the movies? Go ahead. We got time. So, since this is the top 5 now. All right, Caleb, what is your top 5 or your number 5?
Number 5, I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Ooh, nice. I knew that was coming up with someone eventually.
Yeah. I'm not including the Hobbit trilogy because they're compared to Lord of the Rings, it's like night and day. With Lord of the Rings, it's one of the 5 franchises that I consistently remember watching as a child just because my dad put it in front of me. I read the Lord of the Rings books, and I read the Hobbit book when I was in school, and then I watched the movies. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time, just because, especially with the movies, because they're so good. The Peter Jackson and his directing is fantastic. He got A-list actors to play these roles. I mean, freaking Magneto as Gandalf. I mean, talk about a complete 180, from villain to hero type thing. But it's so good. I find the franchise, it's consistent. It's a consistent set of movies as well. The build-up for the villain Sauron and, his eventual return and the orcs and having all these different landscapes and visuals. It's all just fantastic. I love these movies.
What one's your favorite? What movie is your favorite out of those 3?
I can't put one above the other. Like
okay.
I like the way I see it. I look at it all as one movie.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's
really, really long movie.
Yeah, I'm partial. I'm really partial to Two Towers. I really like the feel of that. Forgive me, I don't know all the names in the movie, but where they go where the king's possessed by the guy who plays Chucky. I love that whole feel of it. It's very Viking feel in the mountains, and
it's a really good character arc for some of the characters there.
Yeah.
It's a really good plot as well, you know, trying to get this king, you know, back on track after he's being possessed.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in that is where the king's possessed and Gandalf takes his cloak off and he's all in white, and you see that he doesn't have to tell anybody anything. All his Aragorn and all of them are just kicking everyone's ass while he's walking forward, really serving all that. No, just love it, man. It's just awesome. But what I love about Lord of the Rings is just the journey. Like you put a nice pot of tea on a nice Sunday afternoon, and you just dive into this thing, and then this walking everywhere, and they spend a lot of time in this journey. Like it feels like they're going from place to place, and it's taking a long time. Some people may find that like let's get to it. Would you just fucking get to it? But I like it.
It's one of those.
You go on the journey with the characters.
It's one of those things where it's about the journey, not the destination. Like, and as far as villains are concerned, and the rise to power for the villain, like I always give one of my co-hosts shit for this because he loves Harry Potter so much, and I always tell him, yeah, Harry Potter may be nice and all, but Lord of the Rings is the superior, like especially for the villain. Like we sat through and we watched all the movies on our channel, and I kept on getting disappointed, and I was asking so many questions, and the one thing that Carter kept on telling me was, "Oh, you'll find out in the next one." I'm like, but I want to know now. But no, with Lord of the Rings, I felt there was a lot more tension that was building. Like that opening scene that was the foundational groundwork for what we would be seeing in the future was fantastic, where it was an epic battle between the last free peoples of Middle-earth versus Sauron and his army of orcs. And seeing Sauron being so tall, towering over all the people, and then he's just, swiping around. That's intense. And then he's defeated. This huge force is defeated, and all that's left is the one ring. An indestructible ring that can only be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom. I mean, it was poetic. The entire 3 films, poetic.
And I just gotta say too, like all these women praise these women directors and all this stuff for feminism or whatever, when literally it's males that have the most badass women in movies ever. Like when you watch that scene in Return of the King, and he's like, "You fool! No man can defeat me." And then she pulls off the mask, and it's like, "I am no man." Like that's like badass. And then she stabs him in the face.
I said this before, guys.
Well done. Yeah.
You have a good character. You write a good character. If she happens to be a fucking woman, she happens to be a woman. That's it.
Yeah.
You write the character first, right? And like the Sarah Connor, like Ellen Ripley, they're just good characters. Who happen to be women. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like now, honestly, I am a fan. Not as much of a fan, but I love the barrel scene in the first Hobbit movie. I think that is one of the best
second Hobbit movie.
Is it the second one?
Yeah, I just watched.
Honestly, the first 2 Hobbit movies I think are really good. That's my personal opinion. They're not as good as
I enjoyed them, man. I think they're, because it's funny. The Hobbit is the best book out of the whole thing. If you read all the books, for me, the Hobbit was the best book. So I was expecting it to be the best. Be a really good movie. It kind of took a while.
Was overstretched.
Yeah, it was a little. So
it would have done better with just being 2 movies if they were to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to Nick, just let me get some of these comments. Fachi, what's going on, Matt? Happy anniversary, brother! Congrats on the success. Thank you, dude.
What's up, Matt?
My chunky George is talking of horses. Danner, forget Rings of Power too. I don't even care to see it.
Okay,
I'll be honest.
so Caleb knows I am the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. You'll hear it mentioned again. All y'all know I'm literally learning Elvish. I'm the biggest Lord of the Rings fan any person knows here, probably. I never even finished Rings of Power. It was that bad. That's how bad of just I am that big of a Lord of the Rings fan. I couldn't even finish Rings of Power.
Yeah.
Considering the twist of who Sauron is and how he was trying to seduce Galadriel, that shit was funny. That was hilarious. It was, and it was, it was hilarious, but not for good reasons.
Jordy says, talking of horses, The Godfather is great. Yeah, that's a great trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I think I haven't watched number 3 in a while, but I know it's a dumpster fire to a lot of people, but I don't remember disliking it to that degree. But I'll have to watch it again. Danner says Spider-Man at number 5.
Oh,
that's not a bad choice.
That's not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice.
It was on my list.
Ledger says Return to the King is his favorite.
Same here.
Crap, I got a lot of comments here.
I think what helped with the journey in Lord of the Rings was the cinematography, showing the mountains and everything. It just
It was clearly thought out really well. Like Danner says, one does not simply pick a favorite Lord of the Rings.
Well, I just ranked them, so I can.
Don't forget to subscribe to Jason's guest. I post links, not a mod, so please check them out. Yeah, I'm not big enough for a mod yet. There, Jordy. I don't come live as often as I would like, so I will be this month though, because we're doing the Rocky Watch Party series. Talking amongst yourselves. All right. You guys keep talking away. I'll get to your comments as best I can. All right. Nick, number 5 for you.
Okay, so no particular order on how I place these 5. These are just my top 5. Number 5, I guess I'll go with Predator. Something I've watched when I was around 10 years old. I watched the first 2 movies back to back and just fell in love with everything, with the creature design, with how we get these set of elites. In the first movie, these soldiers going the best of the best, and they still can't take on. They're having a hard time against this alien. And in part 2, I like how they switch up with the concrete jungle, like you said earlier, and you get the police force. It's funny because I usually like franchises to be more consistent with the storyline and like the sequels to be connected, but I'm fine with Predator actually being different for the most part. There's slight connections, but they're not like bringing all the cast over to the next sequel.
Well,
right?
He's a space hunter. It doesn't really need to be connected in that.
Exactly. Yeah.
He can. God knows where he's been. Like that big monster head in Predator 2. Like where the fuck did that thing come from? Like
all the things he hunted, right? And like you said, it's just it doesn't have to connect like the other franchises, and it's just an interesting franchise like that. And I think Alien versus Predator just came out at a time where I was already fans of the first 2, and I was 13 when that came out, so I was like the perfect age, and I loved it for what it was. As an adult, I'm not as big on it. I still have fun with it, but I see you guys got rid of Fantastic Beasts, Psycho remake, and the Hobbit movie, so we're getting rid of the Predator in this one. But one bad movie ain't so bad, and I really enjoyed Prey more than most people, so I'm excited for what the future holds. I hope they don't go the route, like you said, just keep taking different timelines. It will get cliche pretty quick.
I think so. Well, I think we need a movie where it's about the Predator completely. There is no humans in it. Like get into their culture a lot more.
There's a lot that they can do with the franchise because Disney now owns it, and I see that as unfortunate. At the same time, I hope that they can see the potential because I tapped into the comics for both Alien and Predator, and there's a lot of story potential. For example, this is an easy one. You take an AVP film and you set it in the same time as the Alien franchise, where you see the Colonial Marines. You have so many games and comics that focus on that era, and we've never seen the Predator in a futuristic era, right? We've
True,
only
yeah.
seen them in the modern day or somewhat prehistoric. I'm open to seeing them go in many directions, as long as they can keep some consistency. It doesn't get too out of hand. I think that a lot is banking on this Alien film that's coming. That's going to be coming
Yeah,
out.
Romulus.
Yeah, because Prey was all right. I've wanted to see a Predator movie set in that time period for a long time. When I watched the movie Apocalypto, literally, I say you could have put a Predator in there. It would have been so cool. My biggest critique of Prey is when they shoehorned in the reference to Predator 2 with the pistol, because there was a Dark Horse comic. It was a very short story. It came out, I want to say, in the late 90s. It was after Predator 2. And that short story in and of itself could have been its own Predator movie to explain the flintlock pistol and how the elder Predator at the end of Predator 2 said, "Take it." The story in and of itself was really cool, and it was a nice tie-in. But Prey decided to shoehorn in that, and it really cheapened the significance of that pistol, because of out of all the trophies that the Predator could have given to Harrigan, he decided to pull out the pistol, and it felt like there was something more to it. The fact that Predator would actually speak out and say, "Take it," And when you read the comic, you would understand what that line meant. But Prey literally just tossed it in as a random character that gets killed off in a very pathetic way. And it still has a problem of, okay, now that the female lead in that film has the flintlock pistol, how did it end up in the hands of the Predator in 1997? So I'm thinking that they're eventually going to address that in a Prey sequel, because that's what I've been hearing. I'm hearing World War II. I'm hearing Prey 2, that's going to be a direct follow-up. And if you watch the end credits for Prey, you see that a bunch of Predator ships show up on the Native American camp. So who knows? I'm sorry, I took the reins from you, Nick.
That's fine. I just think that they're relying on the box office numbers from Romulus, since that's supposed to be going to theaters. If that does real good, maybe they'll plan on doing a Prey sequel or whatever they plan on in theaters, because I think they realized that they could have maybe made money off of Prey from the views I got on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Yeah.
Hey, brother Fluff, how you doing? 13 when that come out. Crap, I'm so old.
Yeah, I know.
Excellent.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. It's Predators versus Pirates. Okay, that should be.
That'd be a cool image. Like that would just be
That's what the comic was. That Predator 2 short story. That's what that was basically.
All right. So Nick, 5 Predator was that number 5 for you?
Yeah, he just did 5.
Okay, Wolfman, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So the reason why this is number 5 is it's not as personal as my top 4.
Okay.
But this is, to me, though, one of the, if not the best action franchise right now. So I know it's not the MCU, but I'm going to talk about the MCU. But in the MCU, back in its heyday, those were the event films. You went there, it was an event at all the way leading up to Avengers Endgame. Like, for us fans, that was like what we got hyped for, what we went to go see. Now I feel it's transitioned over, at least for me. The event films are Mission Impossible. Every time a new one of those comes out,
fucking solid, man.
I'm just there for them, like day one. Like each one of these, we don't talk about the second one, but the first one was like really good story. The third one has maybe the best villain ever in the franchise with Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was awesome. Yeah. And then like the 4th, 5th, 6th, I rewatched them all before I saw the 7th one again. And just, it's so consistent. And Tom Cruise just keeps on ramping it up with each stunt. And that's why they're kind of the event films you go see in the cinema. It's like, what is he going to do next now? How far is he going to push it? And that's why it's just like, for me, it's the greatest action franchise out there because of just, I can rewatch them. The characters are great. I even love the supporting characters. Benji, all all of his Ving Rhames character. Like I love every one of the side characters in here. They really make him feel almost like a odd kind of family in a way, because they're just like all working together and they're all really close to one another. It's just it is good, man. I love this franchise so much. So that's why I had to put it in the top 5.
Hey, listen, I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan. I mean, when I was a teenager, I did not like this guy, and he's had some duds, but I will not take the he brings it every time in that franchise. Now personally, I think I've been getting into James Bond, and between Casino Royale, even Quantum of Solace, I did enjoy. It's just there's some things about it. In Skyfall, I think I like it more than Mission Impossible. I think I just like Daniel Craig as Bond, the character, more. His version of Bond, and but holy freaking crap, man! Mission Impossible is good. I haven't seen the last one that come out.
Oh, the new one's great. I watched that in 40X, and that was an experience.
Oh, you did too? Yeah, I love the moving seats.
That was so good. Yeah, they made it, and I loved how this like when the bomb detonated, they actually like lit up the whole room with fog. Like it was fog out, and they lit the whole room. I was like, it just fit so well. I was so
yes,
awesome.
sir. Yes, sir.
Film Kid says, for each of you, what is your favorite Terminator movie? Original?
We'll get back to that for me.
Film Kid. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. Daner says T2. I won't argue that. All right. Mine are actually in order here. Today anyway. Today they're in order. My number 5. Okay. Rambo. Nice. My number 5 is Rambo. I could not help. I'm a Stallone guy. I couldn't help not put this on the list. I wouldn't say any movie is a dumpster fire at all. I mean, I love when I start watching First Blood, I'm on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. I love Rambo so much. I love this character, and the way Stallone has these two franchise characters, Rocky and Rambo, and they're the polar opposites. One embraces everything. One is very isolated. It's depressed. It's angry. It's lonesome with Rambo. And I love that. And I know we got away from that character in part 2 and 3 a bit, but he comes back in John Rambo, and he's kind of like staring away and looking at things like, and he's like, it's just awesome. But the First Blood movie, Rocky's my favorite movie of all time. First Blood's my second favorite movie of all time. I can't tell you how much both these characters have this shaped me, and I got to escape into it. Like when I was angry at school from whatever, if I was being picked on or I wanted to fight somebody, but I knew I shouldn't, I dived into Rambo, and Rambo kicking all those freaking police officers' asses. I could channel it. I just channeled it, and I would almost be at this sense of peace after. I'd go to bed and I'd start all over again. So yes, I watched this movie 200 fucking times. Like this, I know Rocky and Rambo more than I know anything. And Rambo is it's just a blast going through these movies all the time. It's, me and Caleb joke, and if you join my YouTube membership, you'll get a special voice message of me of Covalier calling Raven. Come in, Raven. I just love that. I fucking love that part so much, and I can't even explain it. It's almost like you're getting a flashback without a flashback. You know what I mean? Where Rambo is listening, and it's like he's in the war again. Come in, Raven. Talk to me, Johnny. Where are you? And all this. And he goes, identify Baker team: Rambo, Jurgensen, Bronson, Ortega. Westmore, Krakauer. Confirm. Love it. Love this shit so fucking much. So
I think it also helps because Rambo's in a cave, and you can imagine that people, the soldiers in Vietnam, they had to be in, some dugouts at some point, to sort of take shelter from the elements. That too, yeah. So it kind of fits into that sort of PTSD mindset where he's experiencing this sort of warlike mode again, and he's in a cave of all places, in a forest. So it's sort of reminiscent of Vietnam.
Yeah. Film Kid says, what do you guys think of Bad Boys 1? It's okay. It's not my favorite franchise. It's not my favorite series at all. I'm not a huge Will Smith fan.
I prefer the new Bad Boys, I think, to the first.
I haven't seen it.
It's been a while since I watched the first two.
Yeah.
Ledger says the worst part is part 2, which is still really good. I'm assuming you mean Rambo here. I agree.
Yeah, I think so.
Just because he went cartoony. That's all. That's the only reason. It's not so much the story. I like the story. I love the dialogue. I love the action. But from what I've heard, Stallone is still very proud of number 2. So
it's a bit over the top.
It just, it's a product of its time, I think. But I still have a blast with it. I mean, how could you forget him in the mud?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's in the freaking mud and the freaking rack focus comes in and great stuff. Daner says Caleb's out of focus. Wolfman's got the shivers and Nick's a ghost. All right, Caleb, what do you got at number 4?
So keeping in line with what Nick said, no particular order here. Terminator. This franchise is it's interesting to say the least. First 2 films, no problem. That's an easy one to discuss. Afterwards, not so much. You got Terminator 3, which is a disgusting parody, and the first T2 clone to come out of this franchise. You got Salvation, which is an interesting story in a time period that is heavily underused in this franchise, considering all the movies we've had. Then leads into Genesis, which is what I believe J-Man refers to as a very expensive fanfic. And then there's Dark Fate. It's no surprise or no secret to anyone that I do not like Dark Fate for multiple reasons.
I thought that's what your YouTube channel was based off of, the name.
Yeah, sure. We'll call it Dark Fate Files.
Yeah.
When I watched Dark Fate in theaters, I was already going in with knowing what was going to happen to John Connor, because there were numerous plot leaks that were being put out there, and me being the curious one, I was like, okay, let's see how bad things are going to get. I mean, we had Genesis. Genesis was pretty bad, right? How much worse could it get? And yeah, I mean, it got pretty bad, but believe it or not, it's actually something that I was like, yeah, I could see them doing that, just because you already made John Connor a villain. What's the next thing you're going to do after that? Because you're not going to make him the good guy, right? Who would want to make the hero of the franchise the hero, right? It doesn't make any sense. So you kill him off. And by killing him off, you replace him with somebody who functions exactly the same, with a resistance that basically functions exactly the same. So it's the same shit. Like, I think that if I were to juggle which one I think is worse, like T3 or Dark Fate, I say Dark Fate, but it's not by much, because at the end of the day, T3 started the bullshit where they didn't bring back Sarah Connor. It was the first T2 clone, and I felt like the story really wasn't going anywhere, at least until the end. It's like, okay, cool. Judgment Day is inevitable, and we get to see the beginnings of the war against the machines. But it was one of those things where I didn't need to see the bombs fall. Like, I didn't need to have that entire sequence that showed the global nuking, right? I mean, it was nice in isolation, but it was one of those things where we only saw that scene in brief flashbacks or
you know what I was thinking, Caleb? I was thinking the other day, like, I got this movie clip running through my mind of the movie starts off with the bombs going off, and then you see like a match come on. Let's say someone has a match, and you see these two people get out, and there's John got his mother like this because she's hurt her leg, and they're coming out of the nuclear fire, and they come out and they're walking. The camera does this nice big up, and it just says Terminator Aftermath or something like that. That's where you go with Terminator. That's where you fucking start. You know what I mean? That's what I would love to see.
I mean,
I haven't seen T3 in forever, guys. Like, I literally, the last time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, young kids."
You're not missing much.
I hate that fucking movie. Like, Caleb is really me and Caleb talked about this. Like, John and Sarah kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really hard to invest when one's gone and the other's not there. And eventually Sarah does drop off and it will be John's kind of story. But I have no idea why can't Sarah be in the future? I don't think they said, when
Yeah.
she died really. Like that's T3 bullshit. That's
Yeah.
them writing her out because she didn't want to come back because she thought the story was weak. It doesn't mean she could have died as an old woman as far as we know.
They really
Yeah.
leave it, sort of out in the open. Like
Yeah.
there's so much you can do with the future war, and that's why I have some respect for Salvation, because they decided to set it in that time period, which I believe is where the franchise is going to flourish. If you are to bring back the franchise to reinvigorate any interest in it, you need to go to the future war. Give us
And
stories in there that you don't even need any time travel. You don't need
No.
Arnold in there. If you want to
No.
have an Arnie bot, you can literally do the CGI stuff they've already done if you want to have him in there. But you don't have to. There's so much story in there that other media, like video games and comics, have already tapped into. But I want to
Yeah.
see a movie about it.
Yeah, me too.
Me and J-Man have discussed these things in length. Like full-on movie ideas from a sort of The Thing style film where you have a resistance camp and you have a T-800 that's infiltrated the base, but you don't know who it is. Anytime you see the Terminator kill somebody, it's only in POV. You never get to see who the Terminator is, and that's what you can drive up that sort of suspense.
That's me and Caleb. I call it our Terminator meets Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's like a whodunit.
It's a whodunit kind of thing.
James Cameron, you're probably never going to, but if you ever watch this video, I need to let you know, no one gives two rat turds about this Avatar stuff. Go back to Terminator. Listen to me. Everyone wants you there. You made the first two great. Go back to Terminator, please.
But his new ideas for Terminator, I'm not sure if I'm for it.
He wants to explore the more AI side of things, which is kind of confusing to me because it's always been about AI. That's all the franchise has been about.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean, because think about it, guys. Every film or any sort of film or TV installment in this franchise, with the exception of Salvation, has all been set in the present day that features a Terminator going back in time to go kill somebody of importance to the Resistance, whether that be John Connor himself or John Connor's lieutenants or somebody important to humanity. The TV series, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, does that.
Underrated show, by the way. I thought it was fine.
It's all right. Like it's better in season 2. With that said, it's still another T2 clone, just really drawn out. Again, I will preach till I'm blue in the face. Set your franchise in the future or go explore that territory because you've exhausted the T2 formula.
Well, I agree.
You've exhausted it.
Yeah.
I mean,
See you, David. Guys, have fun. I'm going to bed. It's late here in the Netherlands. Keep punching. He's one of my big Rocky bubble guys. So great guy, David is. Good night, David. Thanks for popping in, man. Good to see you. But yeah,
and I've got an interesting question for y'all. I don't know if any of y'all are as familiar with this, but Caleb was talking about the leaks that came out for Dark Fate and reminded me of this because the leaks also came out for this before it released. But what to y'all was worse, when John Connor died in Dark Fate, or when Joel died in The Last of Us 2? I want to hear that. I want to hear. I
haven't seen Last of Us, so
it's like, yeah.
I haven't seen Last of Us, so I don't know.
I don't know. I'd say that personally, John Connor, just because I have more investment in that character. With Joel in The Last of Us, you could have gone either way. I mean, I think it's stupid how they kill him off. I mean, that whole thing is just kind of retarded to me. With that said, I'm not as invested in Joel as I was in Connor, especially with the history that the Terminator franchise has. Like for me, I juggle on which film is my favorite, T1 or T2, because I really love T1. Like that that sort of nightmare future that we only had glimpses of, and the expositional dialogue dished out by Kyle Reese, it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. It really sets you in the mindset of what is going on in this future war. Seeing these hunter-killer drones just flying across this desolate Los Angeles. Everything is so dark and blue, and things are being lit with the neon lights of the plasma rifles. All that stuff is fantastic. And T2 does that as well. It's just there's something really dark and eerie about that first film that really captivates me. You know?
Well, that's what they need to get back to. They need to get back to a real horror feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For sure. All right. Don't worry. We'll be talking a little more about Terminator. Nick, what do you got for number 4?
My number 4 had to go back to my childhood. I had to pick Star Wars.
Nice.
Yeah, the franchise definitely took a dip as of late, but you know, talking about in 1999 when Phantom Menace came out, I was 8 years old, so I just got sucked into the whole original trilogy and that movie. You know, playing the pod racer game on 64, all that stuff. And yeah, I just fell in love with this world. And you know, all the way up to Revenge of the Sith, I seen that in theaters, and I absolutely love that film. And just the darkness of that film, right, went a different direction. And I enjoy The Force Awakens, even though it is like a remake of A New Hope, but it's a fun enough journey. The other two, I won't be speaking anything nice about.
What do you think? What do you think of Rogue One, Nick?
I think Rogue One's fantastic, and I think it makes a great companion. With every time I watch Rogue One, I want to watch New Hope right after.
Exactly. That's what I find. It made New Hope better in a way.
It
builds you up
literally directly into New Hope. So
yeah, and it just it gets you excited to revisit that original trilogy, which is exactly what it was meant to do. And even though you know the journey in that film is going to end bad, you already know the outcome. It's still impactful, which is hard to do, especially with all these new characters you never even knew before.
I'm one of the few who liked Solo, Carter. I like the adventure of it, the more heist kind of feel to that movie. I'm not saying it's fantastic, but I always enjoy it when I put it on.
I don't know, man. When they made Lando be attracted to his robot, that's where I was just kind of done.
I didn't say I like everything about it, but
I mean, I know that seems like a really small aspect of the film, but the mere fact that they would focus on that, like that, they add this in, and it's completely irrelevant to how we see Lando in the original trilogy. That's the thing.
I thought they handled Chewie really well in Solo. Like I thought Chewie was handled really well in that movie.
So I'm gonna go next, but I will talk about something with Chewie and Rise of Skywalker, and I want y'all to hear my idea, and it would have worked so much better. But we will talk about that.
Shit, here we go. Yeah, you had to mention Star Wars, Nick. Fuck!
I just wanted to say 11 movies, and there's only 3 that I don't really care for, but the rest of them I have a good time. I love the world. I just hate the direction that they're going into nowadays, and doing the same as the MCU, branching off on way too many TV shows and stretching themselves out. Lack of more quantity than quality at this point. But especially if you're talking about that original 6, Attack.
I don't know why they haven't gone back to like the Knights of the Old Republic. Have gone way back.
That's been talked about.
Distance yourself from.
James Mangold's doing that. He's going way back with James Mangold's Star Wars film. He's going to go it's going to be the first era of Star Wars or something.
Well, the reason I like Rogue One so much is that it's gritty. It's very
well, and I heard that Knights of the Old Republic goes really dark at times. And
there's a lot that you can take as far as storytelling is concerned. But I'm afraid that they're going to violate those characters too, because they've violated every other character at this point. I mean, they've made a fool out of Obi-Wan, Vader / Anakin. Like, I want you to think about this. I know this is little spoilers for Ahsoka, but the mere fact that Anakin would appear to his apprentice and not appear to his grandson that is on the dark side, like, is literally repeating the same mistakes that he did, and he wouldn't appear to him as a Force ghost to try and counsel him. Like, there are inconsistencies with the sequel trilogy and with all these TV shows that they're tying in.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there. It's like they weren't all on the same page. Said if we were going to do this, we should have set it up here first.
So
I see what you're saying there, though.
Are you saying, Caleb, that like, because apparently in The Last Jedi, the one scene I think even y'all agree was pretty good when Yoda shows up as a Force ghost and stuff. When that scene happened, it was actually initially supposed to be Anakin as a Force ghost talking to Luke, and it was going to be.
That's what it should have been then. That's what it should have been.
Be him guiding Luke in that moment.
For me, it wouldn't have made it any better because they had already made Luke Skywalker not Luke Skywalker. Like, if you go from Return of the Jedi into Last Jedi, the difference between those characters, I cannot justify what they did with Luke. I don't care how accurate it could have happened.
That would have been George Lucas's vision from the start. He said that he was going to make like he said
it was the concept, but he ended up not going with it for obvious reasons. Yeah. Think about it, because if you give us a hopeful, optimistic character who, above all else, would have sacrificed himself just to save his family and friends, he wouldn't have been a coward in The Last Jedi. That's what I'm trying to say. He forsook his training with Yoda on Dagobah just to go save Han, Luke, Han, Leia, and Chewie.
And for me, it's all in the performance of Force Awakens. When she sees Luke, that's not a guy throwing his lightsaber away. Look at the emotion on Mark Hamill's face. He knows Han has died. You can see it in his face. Mm-hmm. There's almost tears coming out, and she goes like this, and then the next movie comes along, and you're like,
he's garbage.
Yeah, Jake Skywalker. that was not Abrams. That's not what Abrams was going to do.
Yeah,
you can tell the way he left it that there was something more fan based friendly. I think that was going to happen.
Well, it's not even really supposed to be fan friendly. You are operating in a sandbox that was previously owned. The least you could do is respect what is there. You can create your new characters, which I'll say this. Rey in the opening parts of Force Awakens. When we first see Rey, I liked her. I liked her environment that she was in. I like how she was looking at that old woman scrubbing the metal debris and how she was sort of like seeing herself like, is this what I'm going to be? Really good potential character arcs. But later on in the film, she started doing things that made no sense. And it's not because of, you have the argument that, if Rey's a Mary Sue, then Anakin is a Gary Stu, which is the male equivalent. But we have to remember that even though Anakin was the prophesized chosen one, he lost all his limbs, he was burned to a cinder, and his power significantly weakened. He went through hell, and we see that hell towards the end of Return of the Jedi, where he's finally unmasked. You get to see just full on all the scars that have now healed, but the damage is still there. But with Rey, she doesn't overcome any real adversity. She doesn't encounter any adversaries until Rise of Skywalker, where the criticism was so bad for them, they had to do little bits where, she sort of loses against Kylo Ren, but then she still wins. She's training. Like, it's almost like slapping you in the face, like, see, here you go. Here's your training you wanted.
Where I thought they were going with Rey? This is personal. I don't know. To me, I thought this would be a neat idea. I thought they were going with Rey is that she was going to be able to handle, kind of be dark and light at the same time. And she was going to be like this new type of Jedi where she could tap into the dark side. She could tap into the light side. Like a hybrid. And I thought, for me, I like that because it's different.
So, all right. So that's a good segue because I really want to, my number 4 is Star Wars.
Okay.
And I really want to talk about my idea for Rise of Skywalker. Because the reason it's number 4, and this would have been number 2 normally, but Rise of Skywalker, I despised so much.
Yeah, I remember you saying when that came out.
on a level like I remember it was on my birthday. Opening night was opening night was on my birthday, and we went to go on my birthday, and I was like holding my friends. I was like, guys, we're seeing the final episodic Star Wars movie on my birthday, and I was like, what? This is gonna be epic. And then I walked out, and I'm just so conflicted. At the time, I was conflicted because I was like, oh, there's some interesting action. But the more I thought about it at our dinner, I was like, yeah, I think I kind of
there is no conflict.
I think I was like, yeah, I think I kind of hate this movie, and I was like so mad, and I just was like furious because, okay, so here's just a few ideas that would have made the film better. You don't have the Emperor in there. Get rid of him. That completely shits all over Darth Vader's character arc. And I had a friend who defends Rise of Skywalker, and he's all like, no, but see, the Darth Vader's character arc was like he saved his son. Okay, so even if he came back, he still saved his son. I'm like, no, it's beyond that. Darth Vader had the gall to lift up his own master and throw his master and kill him. That is a part of his character arc. And by bringing back the Emperor, you're shitting all over that. And so it is just disrespectful to Darth Vader.
I was really invested in Snoke. I wanted to see what this motherfucker
could
do.
And or either Snoke or actually, I liked the idea, what they were setting up, and because I don't necessarily love the movie. I like the movie, but I have a lot of problems with it. But that's one of the ideas that I actually do really like that they were setting up in The Last Jedi was Kylo killing his own master, and he was starting to take this darker path, and I was like, okay, Kylo being the villain is something that's like kind of interesting, like the main
I didn't think he was going to be good again. Like that was shoehorned for me. That was playing it safe, I thought he literally was going to stay dark. I mean, he killed his fucking father. Like,
right.
Yeah. But then you also saw the confliction there. Like, he wasn't able to kill his mother, or shoot his mother out of the ship, so he flew away. Like, it was like you could still tell that confliction in him in The Last Jedi. And then this movie comes out and talking about the darkness, right? So I know everyone would have been like, but it's the dog of Star Wars. You can't do that. Hear me out. You fucking kill Chewie in Rise of Skywalker, because here's what happens. All right. So when Rey you keep that scene in there if you want to, where the Knights of Ren are fighting her or whatever. But the whole cop out of, oh, it was the wrong ship that she shot, completely took me out of the movie, because if you would have actually had Chewie in that ship when she shot that lightning out and stuff like that, and then destroyed the ship that Chewie was in, that would have been an internal conflict. She would have been like, this darkness in me is evil. I killed my friend. I need to get rid of this. And it would have been like an emotional character arc for her.
But Wolfman, don't you know? You can't make the Kathleen Kennedy self-insert look bad. That would paint the wrong picture for all the little girls that look up to Rey.
Yeah. It was, and they wouldn't have sold the Chewbacca toys, they wouldn't have one of those. So it's really dumb that they.
I did like when Leia died though, and they had that moment with Chewie where he falls to his knees and stuff.
Yeah,
I want to remind you of something though. Nice. That at the end of The Force Awakens, that Leia and Chewbacca didn't hug. Like, Leia just walks right past Chewbacca to hug Rey instead of Chewbacca.
A girl who she literally met like the day before.
I want you to think about that. And I also want you to think about the fact that there was a deleted scene in Last Jedi that basically showed Luke mourning for Han Solo. They cut that scene and they gave us a mourning scene for Rose Tico instead. Now, look.
Hey, the biggest problem is Luke would have already known Solo died. He would have known that as soon as, he already knew that. like with the acting of what Abrams set up. When he says, "Where's Han?" He would have fucking felt it. He would have known all that
Exactly.
shit.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
Leia
the
felt it
stupid.
too. Well, yeah, she felt it in Force Awakens. We have that scene where she literally sits down
But
and she's
Luke
like,
hasn't. But Luke doesn't. I'm going.
Yeah,
Ryan
well,
Johnson,
no,
you make good
you said-
movies on
you
your
said.
own, but
Like you said, in Force Awakens, Luke did feel it in Force Awakens. He felt that Han died at the end of Force Awakens, but for whatever reason, The Last Jedi, he acted like he didn't know it, which was strange. But yeah, I have it at number 4 because I love the original trilogy. There will always be an all timer for me.
yeah,
The
amazing.
prequel trilogy I rewatched. The more I rewatch them, I'm still not a fan of Attack of the Clones. I think that is bad. Like it is a bad movie. It's not as bad as as Rise of Skywalker and such, but it's not good. I'm still not a fan of that one. But over the years, I've appreciated like Phantom Menace more. I've appreciated Revenge of the Sith more.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
I like Revenge of the Sith more, except for the real bad dialogue and some of it. And
yeah,
when I first watched it in the theater, I was just like, I thought it needed 2 movies. I felt like I wanted to see him as Darth Vader actually hunting down Jedis. I felt like they really rushed through that part. Like that was really, really rushed. I thought it was going to be him and Darth Vader like lifting people up, choking them, cutting heads off. I thought he was just going to be like just insane, like kind of like I liked Vader in Obi-Wan, like where he's pulling people out of the fucking villages and stuff. You know what I mean? He's strangling people.
Yeah.
He was badass in that freaking movie, but
badass.
But
but there's just so many decisions that were made by both Lucas and by Disney that were just very that weren't the best. And
you know what? That's it's not even. I'll tell you now, it's not even in my top 5, and that's one of the big reasons. Is that the franchise kind of has fallen? I love the original trilogy. I'm not even big on the prequels. I'm not even that big on them, but I love the original trilogy, and that's why there's this another kind of long franchise that's ahead of it. But I
just wanted to say at least once a year I have to revisit some of the Star Wars movies. That's why I had to put it in my top 5.
Play Revenge of the Sith game for that, J-Man. The game is I have. That's where he kills the Emperor. He kills the Emperor at the end there.
Yeah, the alternate.
That was fucking awesome. Yeah, that's a great game. That was a great game. That's
you know what though?
Played video games.
We're all forgetting one important aspect of the more recent Star Wars media that takes a giant shit on a particular character arc in Phantom Menace. It's that they have basically nullified the impact of getting stabbed with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I just gotta adjust this because I have had some friends in my past who have told me like, well, you don't really seem like a fan of Star Wars if you're criticizing it that much. The reason, and I still have it in my top 5 because the thing is the reason I don't like the Star Wars movies I dislike is because I'm a fan. It's because I'm a fan of Star Wars.
Because you are a fan. That's like Caleb. Yeah. Caleb gets frustrated with Predator and Terminator so much because he's a fan. It's not that he hates the shit; he loves it. Like we all love our franchises. I get it. These Star Wars fans who love it and say you're criticizing, it's because you're just a fan. You're just not liking. I think I like some of the stuff a lot more than you guys as far as Star Wars. It doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know if we want to talk about this, but number 4, Caleb and everyone, Terminator for me. T1 and T2 are just so fucking strong in this franchise. We went into this too much. And Terminator Salvation to me, it's so underrated for me. I love it. I think they honor the original movie really well in that end scene. After the Arnie bot gets burned up. I mean, when he's just an endo, and when they're in the factory and he's punching John Connor and he's, I thought it was really well filmed. There was some good practical effects in there. The problem is they gave away the Marcus character in the trailer. Like the marketing ruined that movie.
Yeah.
Ruined that movie. But anyways, all in all, great franchise. Absolutely love it. Caleb, number 3. Let's move on from, unless it's Star Wars again, is it?
No, I mean, spoilers. It is in my list, but I don't have it as my number 3. But again, it's not in a particular order. So, but no, for my number 3, I have Predator. For obvious reasons, it's one of those franchises I grew up with. The Predator design is something that I've always loved. It's so unique. Like, of all the sort of aliens and creature features that we've had, you haven't really seen a monster with dreadlocks. You haven't seen the concept of a extraterrestrial hunter going after these real tough hombres. Predator is one of those films that blends together genres so well. Your first 30 minutes is your typical 80s action film that was popular at the time. And then after that, the middle half is it's a slasher film. That's literally what it is. It's a masked killer racking up a body count. And then the third half is a survival film where kind of it gets into that sort of First Blood feel where, he's out there in the jungle trying to survive while this thing is hunting him. He learns of the predator's weakness, and then he in turn becomes a predator himself.
Don't you find that so interesting though that McTiernan can switch between genres in a nice flowing manner and create tension? It amazes me every time I watch. He does it with Die Hard. I mean, the original Die Hard, because it's McTiernan, has some serious tension in it.
Yeah.
Right? This dude's around the corners in Die Hard. It's full of tension, and Tiernan just knows how to do tension and action. I just find that brilliant how he can do that, because let's face it, they can't do that. They fall when they try to go from a genre to a genre, or take the tones and blend them. Like he takes tones and just starts blending them together. That's unheard of now. Like
those are always my favorite movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that having a strong story and then sort of working out the inner workings of that afterwards. I mean, it's paramount that you are able to understand what genres you're going to be toying with and make sure that the story that you're writing is applying with that very well. And it also helps to have talented actors playing these parts. I mean, you wouldn't expect much depth from an Arnold Schwarzenegger character just because of what we've seen him in. Yet we sort of get an understanding through very brief points of dialogue and scenes that you have this crew of soldiers they're a family, right? They all have their own little quirks, but they've been together on missions in the past that we only hear briefly about. And then as they get picked off, you feel the impact. You spend enough time with the characters that they're not the disposable shitheads you see in like Friday the 13th, right?
Yeah.
These are people that you care about. And as they start dropping off, I mean, the first big impact is when they get rid of the comic relief character. That's the point where the movie gets serious. You get rid of the character that was there to provide the humor. And they play him really well because throughout the first 30 minutes, he makes those jokes. You get a good laugh. It's a typical 80s action film with all those sort of upbeat moments, even though they're gunning down hundreds of people.
No, you make a great point there, because it's like if he would be surviving, he might have made a quip or something.
Yeah,
that character, and
it straightens the tone early.
Yeah, and also you got the guy, Billy, the guy who's scared of fucking nothing, is just like, I'm scared. Bullshit, man. You ain't afraid of no man. Like, it's fantastic. And I think other than Rocky's score, Predator may be my favorite score of all time. That's not horror. I mean, that's not pure horror. I listen to this thing every day, man. I absolutely freaking love it.
But yeah, Predator.
Daner, why don't you say that twice?
Why'd you say that twice?
Okay, Nick, you're number 3.
Okay, I just want to state that since you mentioned that about Star Wars, I don't have Terminator for the same reasons on my top 5.
Oh, okay.
because I don't know. As I enjoy the franchise and obviously the first two movies are flawless. The rest of the sequels are tending to go down a little bit for me every watch. But yeah, my number 3, I'm going with Evil Dead.
Nice. That's high.
Yeah, this high.
Yeah.
One of the earliest childhood memories. I was probably like 9 or so, watching Army of Darkness and just loving it. Like the fantasy, the skeletons army, everything, the humor, Ash Williams with the one-liners and everything. This is peak Ash when you're talking about the character, like a dialogue wise and that. And I was like, I need more of this. And I started with Army of Darkness, and then I went to the original and scared the shit out of me. At that age, seeing the girl in the cellar, that haunted my nightmares for a while. But yeah, it's a unique franchise because I like all the films, and it's like they're all different flavors depending on your mood. You got the original, which is more serious horror, but 80s, like very early 80s and low budget. You got part 2, which has that mix of humor and, seriousness. Part 3 that goes all out over the top humor, basically fantasy style. And then the last 2, which are much more serious, and like the remake being very gory.
I got God when he steps on that nail in Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
does that?
Yeah. When he's in that old building there,
Yeah.
And the little ashes are running around, and
Right.
I used to love that as a kid.
It's a crazy blast of a movie, man. It's just
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's just a franchise that where my number 2 and my number 4, my ranking are always shifting. Like Evil Dead 2, the remake, and Army of Darkness. I never know how to place them depending on my mood, basically. But yeah, I enjoy the whole franchise. Even the new one that came out, it's like a 7 out of 10. But still, when that's your worst movie in your franchise, you're doing pretty good. And I just have a lot of fun with it.
nice. Wolfman's turn. He's not here.
I'm here.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I love that franchise. Obviously, it was an honorable mention.
Yep.
For me, for my number 4, I told you guys. Number three. I told you guys there's gonna be some shocking picks here.
Okay.
Y'all are gonna.
I'm down.
Y'all are gonna listen to this and you're gonna be like, wait, what? But if you think about the quality of at least the first 3 movies, I don't think the 4th movie is bad either, really. It's unnecessary, but I didn't think it was bad per se. But those first 3 are all like masterpieces. And I grew up with this. Toy Story for me.
Oh,
these movies are
on my list.
Yeah. This one, this franchise to me is just superb. Like literally from like the first film, and I rewatched them all, and yeah, you can say the first film's animation doesn't really hold up too well as per se.
Early to mid 90s. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know, whenever my son laughs, he does this kind of like ha 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 ha. He does that. And I go like this. I tell my wife, "You mean that happy child over there?"
But it's like that film though. I remember always going to my grandmother's house, and she always had like Toy Story 2, and she had Wizard of Oz on tape, and I would like go and watch those back, like between the two of those back and forth, and I wore out both Toy Story and Toy Story 2 to the point the VHS tapes broke. Like I would rewatch those things over and over and over again.
Yeah, you guys are younger than me because that thing came out when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So I was not really at that.
I think 94,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, something like that.
I was just starting high school, so I was 14. But when I started having kids, like 2009, so we got right into Toy Story. But more as a parent watching it every day of my life. I watched the Bee Movie every day of my life.
Oh yeah.
I watched Superman cartoons. Well, that's a good thing, mind you, every day of my life. Because my son, who's 14 now, he loved Justice League and Superman cartoons and just loved it. But I digress, Wolfman. Sorry, but it just reminds me of when my kids were smaller, how much they loved Toy Story.
Yeah, no, and it's the sorry, I was shut there for a second, but yeah, no, Toy Story has had such a special place in my heart for years, and seeing the art from Toy Story 1 to Toy Story 3 and just Toy Story 3 making me sob every single time, and just that beautiful ending of just
It is
of him just giving all the toys away and then him being like, so long, partner. And then seeing Toy Story 4, and yes, Toy Story 4 was unnecessary. However, because they were setting up the toys with this new kid, technically speaking, it wasn't necessarily the end of the Toy Story in Toy Story 3. It was the end of Andy's story.
Mm-hmm.
Andy was done now.
Yeah.
And now they were continuing here. And so with Toy Story 4, that was the end of Woody's story. That is Woody's arc. By the time it ends, you're like, yeah, Woody is done. The toys are done. This is like the end of their story. And it feels that way. And it's just like really, still was really well done. The animation of 4, my God. Like the things they can do with animation, like it blew me away. The rain looks real. That one cat scene, like in Toy Story 4, like looked incredibly real. Like it was top-notch animation. I would say that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hold a candle to the first 3. I will say that, but I still enjoy it. And the first 3 are flawless to me. Some of the best movies of all
I'd
time.
agree. I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
They're fantastic movies.
It was on my honorable mentions. I just love that, like, since it came out in '94, I feel like I was Andy through those films. Like, well, when was the third movie out? Like 2009, I'd like to say.
2010.
2010. Okay, I graduated in 2009, so him going to college was like the same as me. It was like all perfect timing. So I like that.
Yeah, that would be. That would be. Yeah, that was a great movie, man. Like Toy Story, I'd say Toy Story 3 would probably be my favorite.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite of all. It just hit the most. And when all the toys are like holding each other's hands and they're going to about to go in the incinerator.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro, this is my childhood is about to get wrecked. I was like so scared. I was like, yo. And that teddy bear was evil.
I always loved the first one too with Sid. That was my favorite.
It was funny. Man. It was funny. Love it. Love it. Love all these conversations, man. They're great. All right, number 3 for me. This is my favorite horror franchise, and this is not going to be a surprise to anybody, I don't think. But I love me some Friday the 13th. I could not have it off my top 5 when I really thought about it. I know it has some fucking dumpster fires, but I rewatch this franchise a couple times a year, not once a year, a couple times a year. So I love Friday the 13th, and I'm a big fan of the original movie. When people say, it's a ripoff of Halloween, I get it, but I feel like it has its own tone and its own atmosphere and its own camp thing and its own lore built around it. That kind of loses itself. DeSantis Never Hike Alone 2 is really brought a lot of what is so important about this franchise, and that's the mother-son relationship and this curse and everything like that, and the stain Jason has on this town. But Friday the 13th, part 2, part 3 is fun. Love Final Chapter. Jason Lives is awesome. I even get some enjoyment out of New Blood. Not big on the remake, or I don't like Jason X. I've come around to Jason Goes to Hell, even just because by the time we get to that movie, it's refreshing, breaking the formula a bit. And I do like a lot about this franchise. I love Jason. I mean, I just love this character. The hockey mask was genius, I think. Probably an accident. All by accident. Let's put this on him. Let's just put this hockey mask on him. And he turns iconic, right? And I love seeing how the fan films are really bringing that understanding that his motivations are through his mother. Like, this is what it's all about. Right. And they in Hollywood, or whoever gets the rights, whatever happens, please pay attention to this. I think we're smarter now. I could, at least I speak for myself. I just don't want blood, guts, and titties in my Friday the 13th film. I want something a little bit more smarter. Yes, I want it to be a slasher. I want the killing and all that, but don't forget what this is all about.
That's why I'm very excited for this Pamela like prequel TV series coming out.
Yeah.
I think that actually.
I'm more optimistic. I am gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna.
Especially considering A24 is behind it.
Am I gonna be feeling sorry for Jason because I don't technically want that? You know what I mean? Yeah. If he's like really creepy and he's peeking at people around trees,
well, he's not going to be. He's not going to be in it. It's a prequel about it's a prequel about Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, he's not even born yet.
Yeah, like, Jason will eventually be in it in the later seasons. They said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now that's even more fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
So she would be a really she wouldn't be an evil woman yet then.
Yeah, and some people are like wanting like Mia Goth, like they are wanting Mia Goth to play like a young Pamela Voorhees and such. Like that would be something kind of interesting.
I'm really interested about that one. Should be pretty cool. But number 3, we could talk Friday the 13th all fucking day here, but or all night. I love Friday the 13th. So that's my number 3 franchise, and there's the big box set. I don't know if you guys can see it. Got my box set there, so great stuff. All right, Caleb, number 2.
So this is a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the first franchises that I remember watching consistently after Star Wars, because Star Wars was like my first franchise, and this next one is Godzilla, the Godzilla films.
Ooh, I knew that was coming soon.
So Godzilla is it. It's a very good franchise for me. Not every installment in there is solid. Some of them are pretty weird and wacky.
I absolutely loved it when Matthew Broderick was. No.
Doesn't count. Well, actually, technically it does, but it's not. It's not a. They Toho, the owners of Godzilla, actually renamed him to be Zilla, just because it was like, oh, anyway. So Godzilla as a franchise it has its ups and downs, but the inception of it was a cleverly disguised warning about the use of nuclear weapons. So the director Ishiro Honda was a survivor of the bombings, one of the bombings in Japan during World War II. And because those people in Japan were so affected by what happened, they wanted to sort of speak out to the world about, the effects that the weapons, that the nuclear technology had. And because you had the territory was occupied by the U.S., ergo, there was lots of censorship, speaking out against the war, the weapons. The director decided to create a monster film that was the embodiment of the horrors of the nuclear war. Enter Godzilla. And the first film is very serious. It is not a cheesy monster film. The way that the POV of the survivors, it's very haunting and chilling. It's like a disaster movie, a very in-depth disaster movie that happens to have a giant creature that is wreaking havoc, but that was born of the nuclear testing. After that, the franchise does go into that sort of B-movie direction with lots of cheesy monsters, and the sequels really illustrate that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love this whole franchise. Even some of the weaker entries, there's a charm about it. Something really appealing about guys in rubber suits destroying miniature models. Maybe it's from my love of Terminator, seeing those miniature models and how well those were done. But the franchise has a few strong points. The introduction of several popular characters really it's entertaining. It's a very entertaining franchise. And whenever I talk to people about it, I always tell them, if you're going to get into this franchise, and this is something that pretty much every Godzilla fan universally agrees upon, you have to watch the original first. You can watch any other movie in the franchise afterwards, but you got to start with the original to understand where it came from. Now, some of the more recent installments have taken it a bit more serious. I'm not specifically referring to the Legendary films, though I do enjoy those films, don't get me wrong. But some of the early 2000s ones are really good. this was actually sort of at the end of the franchise before they brought it back from Toho in 2016 with Shin Godzilla, which for me is the most terrifying iteration of Godzilla that we've had. Based a lot on the creature design because he looks like a mutated corpse with those really sharp, jagged teeth and the beady eyes. It's really unnerving, you know. But it kind of got back to what the franchise was, where you were afraid of Godzilla. Now, personally, I like to see Godzilla more of as like an anti-hero or a good guy. It's a personal taste, and we do get that with the legendary films, and I do enjoy them. The franchise in and of itself has a very long history. It has over 23 films.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot, and within those 23 films, the timelines are everywhere. Like, you want to talk about confusing timelines in a franchise, I think Godzilla is the most confusing, just because it has so many movies that are interconnected and disconnected, where some of them is like, oh, this movie is a dream, or this one involves some weird psychedelics with unusual visuals. And then you have one of my personal favorites, which is called Godzilla Final Wars, which at the time it came out, it was
with
the 50th,
all the
it was
big
50th,
battle.
Yeah, it was the 50th anniversary of the franchise, and it was the last film until 2016. And instead of going for just another Godzilla fights another monster or Godzilla by himself, hold on, just don't make a Godzilla Frankenstein.
fucking Roland Emmerich.
Well, you know, it's actually funny because Roland Emmerich doesn't like the original Godzilla film. I forgot exactly what he said, but
that's probably why it sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was something about, like, he didn't like the fact that the monster couldn't be hurt by the conventional military weapons. And if that is the case, then you can see what influenced the ending of that film, where he literally gets killed by missiles right on the Golden Gate, or not Golden Gate, but on the Brooklyn Bridge. No, but Godzilla Final Wars is fucking insane. It is a completely over-the-top, ridiculous mess, but I love it. I love it because, like, if you're a Power Rangers fan, you'll enjoy this. I'll say that, because it has a lot of really over-the-top kung fu fighting, guys flying through the air with physics that make no sense whatsoever, but it's just pure entertainment. I would say if you eventually get to that movie, make sure you watch a few others first so that you get a bit more grounded. But the franchise as a whole, I love it. I grew up with it. It has a very iconic monster that I'd say rivals or is even better than King Kong. And I know J-Man loves Kong, and I love Kong too, don't get me wrong. It's just, realistically speaking, based on, you know, what we've seen of both characters, you know, Godzilla would wipe the floor with Kong. That's just, like, if we're taking, for example,
statistically speaking.
Yeah.
Hey, now, don't speak blasphemy. I love King Kong.
Well, let me put it this way. One was born of nuclear fire. The other was an ape on a very cool island that gets killed by biplanes in the 1930s. I mean, that's the only thing. But no, I love Kong. I love Godzilla. It's a franchise that, after, like, I'll say this, Godzilla isn't the first giant monster movie. In fact, you could say that Godzilla was partially inspired by a film that came a few years before it called The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. It was, believe it or not, it was actually a lot like the Roland Emmerich Godzilla film. Like, if you watch those two films, it's the Godzilla film from Roland Emmerich is a lot more like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms than Godzilla himself. It's interesting. I don't know what exactly it was that inspired Roland Emmerich to go in that particular direction, but all I can say is that we had a missed opportunity, because Stan Winston, the man behind Alien, Predator, and Terminator, had designed his own Godzilla. And you can find pictures online. You just Google Stan Winston's Godzilla, and it looks so cool. It looks so cool, and I'm thinking to myself, we could have had this Godzilla versus what Emmerich gave us, and it would have been awesome. It would have been awesome. But yeah, my number 2, Godzilla. love this franchise.
Are you excited for Godzilla -1?
Yes, I am.
Oh yeah.
It looks
There's a really cool shot I sent Caleb where the guy's in the boat and there's Godzilla's face.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'm excited to get into Godzilla, because I'm really a rookie, but that shot was just terrifying to me. It had a real eerie feel to me, and I've always been a King Kong guy. I haven't got into God, so I'm excited in March to go through some of these films. I'll probably get into it before then, like actually watch them, but it's exciting.
And
I'm
also excited
real-
for Monarch, too. That looks good.
Yeah.
What were you
I was just
gonna
gonna say the Godzilla franchise is really intriguing. I seen the original, I seen the 90 some film. I haven't watched newer ones, but I do own Toho Volume 2, and I've watched a couple of those. I haven't seen Final Wars yet, so I'll jump on that one. But I enjoy it for what it is. It's fun.
Yeah. I'll just say this: when you get to Final Wars, maybe have a drink first. You might enjoy it a lot more.
I watched like Godzilla 2000, a few other ones on that DVD.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All right, Nick, what's your number 2?
my number 2, I'm gonna go with Scream.
Nice.
I know, J-Man, that's not your franchise, but
Not my franchise. But that's okay. Everyone else loves it.
Yeah, I love it. My first horror movie ever. I was like 6 when this came out to rent on VHS. My older brother, probably same age as Jason, rented it, and I ended up coming in the room and watching it and being terrified half the time. But yeah, I have that kitchen scene like ingrained into my memory, like them stabbing each other and feeling woozy and all the blood coming off. It just felt like so surreal at the time watching that. You know, it felt more realistic than some other cheesy horror movies that I've seen at the time. But yeah, and just how consistent the franchise is. I love the meta humor, the self-awareness, how it's almost a franchise for the horror fans, you know, to get the jokes, you have to be in on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's still going pretty strong to this day, even though I find part 6 had a little too much plot armor, a little too much characters getting stabbed 50, 60 times and still surviving. But aside from that, it's still fun. I'm still there for the humor, for the thrills. I like how it's getting a little more intense because the kills were never really that gory before. It was more about the story. But yeah, I'm a fan of this franchise.
All right, Wolfman, you haven't talked Lord of the Rings yet. It must be coming.
It'll be coming.
Yeah. All right.
But for right now, Nick and I are just matching it up tonight.
You're on
We
the
had
screen.
the same number 4s, and then now we have Scream at number 2. So
Nice.
Scream is the greatest horror franchise in my opinion, my personal favorite, just because it's the franchise that made me fall in love with horror in the first place. Neve Campbell was like one of my first celebrity crushes growing up. I loved her. She was all the characters are great. Dewey, Gail, like they really make you fall in love with these characters. And I feel like I'm a fan of all the movies. Yes, even 3. I love the whole Hollywood aspect of like 3, where they're behind the scenes and they're like on sets of the movies, and it's like that kind of deal. I really love that. And I just think that the only thing I would say negative about this franchise is the stupid idea that they did with Scream 2022 of like calling it to Scream. I'm sick of that trend. They could have done
should have been 5 Cream.
Yes, exactly. 5 Cream is how they should have named it. That would have been clever, because Scream 6 did something like that. It's like I don't know why they couldn't do something like that with Scream 5, but whatever. And then seeing Hayden Panettiere come back to acting in general in Scream 6 was really nice too, to see her come back. And then just the way that they've been taking it, I would love the theory. I do love the theory of like Matthew Lillard's character is pissed off and he's behind it all. He's been behind it all these years. Like there's been that kind of theory going around that he's like,
Oh yeah,
like he's not dead. He's pissed off after the events of the first Scream, and he's just like he's been the mastermind behind it all.
You're going to be pissing off Chris Snyder and Danner with that.
Yeah, there's some people saying that, and I don't know. I feel like if you have confident writers, they can make it work. Like they've chosen some really good people, from Radio Silence to having Christopher Landon now doing it. Christopher Landon is like a dream choice. When you look at like Freaky and Happy Death Day, like I'm so excited for Scream 7 now after his announcement. This is a franchise that just stays consistent, and it is all about story. Honestly, if they ever do, because it's like a trend now to have horror video games being adapted, like horror movies being made into video games. If they ever do a Scream one, don't make it a multiplayer. What you do is you do like an Until Dawn style story mode.
I love Until Dawn
for like Scream. You know, that's how you do a Scream video game if you ever do one.
Well, Daner's got Batman at his number 2, just quickly and.
Yes. But yes, I scream to my heart's content my love of Scream. So there you go.
I'm in the Stu.
We never saw a dead body.
I'm in the Stu's dead boat too.
I mean, I am too, but I think like we never technically saw a dead body. So
we would have got some prison facts or something.
Yeah, yeah. I still got to see the last one there, and I'd like to do a ranking actually of, because I'm not the biggest fan, just to see where I would line up on all the movies.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, my number 2 is a franchise that you guys probably wouldn't have on your list. Most people wouldn't have it this high. This is something I love. This world that I'm about to show you is, I'm so interested in it when I get into it. It has a couple duds, but for the most part, it's a dated franchise for the most part, but it's been reinvigorated. And let's just pull this bitch up. I love this fucking franchise.
I knew it
so much. We recently, Nick and I did a something with Austin Bird from SPC Unleashed. All these sci-fi franchises, and so I finally went back and watched the original Planet of the Apes. Except for the first, I've seen the original, but I heard these were dumpster fires. These were like unwatchable. That's what I heard. These were fantastic. Well, not fantastic, but you can see where Matt Reeves, Matt Reeves, you can see where he drew from there and took the best parts of it and breathed new life into it. Now, favorite trilogy of all time is the Matt Reeves trilogy. So yes, I am excited about Kingdom. I cannot be. Anytime you're going to put me in this world, I'm going to be excited. I love the social commentary it says through this franchise, like the who deserves this world more, the humans or the apes, in this little battle of like, well, who's Matt Reeves really shows you like you understand the ape side, you understand the human side, and you know who's going to have more humanity, right? And that's in the original franchise too. Like the Conquest of the Apes, that was just a shocking movie actually at the end. And Battle of the Apes, and
let's not forget the Tim Burton one.
The I like to forget that one too, but
it's okay. It's okay.
If you watch Conquest of the Apes, it's like watching a Romero zombie movie. Yeah. When these apes take over, they're fucking just like, it's bloody. It's bloody, it's dark, and I love it. Roddy McDowell as Cornelius is fantastic, but you know, just the social commentary, all about humanity, and you know, this progressing this civilization up. I mean, we could literally, with what Matt Reeves has started, we could literally see 30 movies of a progression of their civilization until we see Charlton Heston's character come and do this full circle. That's what I would like to see. If they can keep being successful with it and keep making good movies, that would be awesome to see. To see like a 20 film series of this thing come completely full circle. And it's kind of like Terminator in that sense. Well, the astronaut came, but the apes went back in time and created this whole thing. If you actually watch the franchise, it's like a time loop. It's created this time loop. But I love Planet of the Apes. I think it has very strong characters. I think it's underrated as hell. I don't know why, especially with the new trilogy, what Matt Reeves did. This is definitely should be considered as a fantastic franchise. Love it. I don't know, man. I just fall in love with this. Every time I watch the first one, I'm like, "What?" I'm binging it. I just can't help it. I love it, and it's so emotional, that new trilogy.
Was on my list.
And also, can I request to kind of change up the order because I'm gonna have to go soon. So just
yeah.
I love you, Dr. Zayas. Daner says I blew Caleb's fucking mind when I told him who played Maurice in the Reeves trilogy. I forget who plays him. I keep forgetting.
Remind me again, so my mind can be blown again.
I can't. Yeah. There's definitely going to be a watch party series eventually. I'm reviewing them all in April. There's Ape Roll. That will be. I was just so passionate about this franchise. Especially when I went back and watched them all. I'm like, why don't people talk about this more? I know Beneath is kind of a dumpster fire. It is pretty bad, but still going to that world I like.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean?
That was nice.
The crazy lady from the X-Files episode.
Oh, fuck, that's right. Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Maurice is a female. And and the motion capture is amazing. Andy Serkis should have got an Oscar. I mean, Caesar is my favorite character next to Rocky.
Yeah,
I just love it.
And I'll never understand why, I love Blade Runner 2049. That movie's a masterpiece. But, that year at the Oscars, why Best Visual Effects didn't go to the War for the Planet of the Apes is beyond me. Because that movie is, I watched that, and it changed the game for CGI. It was insane. I was just...
Well, let's hope they continue with that trend, because a lot of today's CGI, particularly from Marvel, yeah.
Well, it was War for the Planet of the Apes that ruined other movie CGI for me. I watched it and I was like, it was so good that now I see other movies that do CGI. I'm like, oh, that's CGI.
And also the new trailer for Kingdom. It doesn't look like they've dropped the ball on the CGI.
Yeah,
it actually looks really good. I'm not saying it looks better. It just says, it looks consistent. They still look like apes. They still look like the emotions there. Cornelius in the one shot, you could tell he looks a lot like Cornelius from the original films. They're going for that look, and he looks like Caesar a bit. And I'm excited, man. I can't tell you how excited I get about these movies. And Wolfman's one of his first videos always shows up on my YouTube of when you're showing off your... It's a whole video. Yeah, it's a whole video.
It's one of my most viewed videos. It was just a simple Blu-ray unboxing I did.
But God, I love it. I love apes though, man. I just love this idea of that, these apes taking over, and just so much character and story. That comes first, right? Character story. It comes first. It's has to. But Caleb, what is your number one?
Star Wars. I know we already sort of blew the Star Wars load, but
we blew a top on it.
Yeah, but Star Wars was the first franchise that my dad introduced me to. My love for Star Wars started before I was even born. My dad literally when he got back, so my dad was in the military. But before he was in the military, he grew up watching Star Wars. He was in the theaters in 1977. His mind was blown, and he followed the franchise ever since. And around the time before Phantom Menace came out, he started collecting Star Wars toys. He had racked up a lot before Phantom Menace even came out. And then afterwards, more of that collection just started, piling up. And then I joined in the trend for Revenge of the Sith. I have a very good memory of we were at a Walmart around midnight, or it was before midnight, where it was a big whole thing where Walmart was had unveiled their huge aisle of nothing but Revenge of the Sith toys. We were in line ready for all that. And I remember it was really late. It was a school night, but my dad was like, we got to do this. And so I remember picking up different toys. It was a great time. One of the great Star Wars memories I have. I love this franchise. The original 6 movies, and yes, like I agree, Attack of the Clones is really bad. With that said, it's a movie I can actually watch though. Like I love the cheesy ass dialogue. I think my favorite aspect of it was Camino and seeing the clones. Even though the CGI,
yeah, that was a good scene actually.
Yeah, even though the CGI of the clones, like the whole armor, it's all CGI.
As well as the Jango Fett scene when Jango Fett and Obi-Wan have their fight.
Their little standoff. Yeah. I like it though. Like I like aspects of it. I can watch it. It's not atrocious, like atrocious in the sense of insulting like the sequel trilogy is. That's the big difference for me, is that it's not the best Star Wars movie out of the prequels. I mean, that's Revenge of the Sith for me all the way. With that said, it still has its place. It gives us some of that what was teased in 1977 with Obi-Wan talking about the Clone Wars. It's like, what was the Clone Wars? Now we know. I think that to some aspect, the Clone Wars animated series helps to fill in those gaps really well. I just wish that story could have been handled better once Disney decided to start meddling with it. But it's my first franchise. Falling in love with Luke Skywalker, finding out that Vader is Luke's father. I mean, that was huge. That was huge. And of course, my dad was like, look, when you start watching these movies, you have to watch 4 through 6 first, and then watch 1, 2, 3. And of course, at the time that he introduced this to me, Revenge of the Sith hadn't come out yet. So it was around the time of Attack of the Clones, at least that I can remember, where I was watching those movies and then watching 1 and 2, and then like, oh shit, Anakin Skywalker, this is Anakin, holy shit, and he's going to become Darth Vader. I mean, I remember the hype surrounding Revenge of the Sith. I remember the first teaser they released where it was Obi-Wan and A New Hope talking about, the Jedi were the guardians of peace and justice throughout the galaxy before the dark times, before the Empire. I remember that teaser. It's still up on YouTube as well. It was fantastic. It immersed me in the world, and I was getting ready for the hype of Revenge of the Sith. The video games that were coming out too, like the Lego Star Wars games, the Revenge of the Sith video game, the Battlefront games. Star Wars is just, it's near and dear to my heart, which is why I've been so critical of what's been put out by Disney, because it doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. It feels like, especially more so lately, it feels like the MCU garbage that's being churned out, where it's excessive and there's not a lot of heart and soul into it. I know that a lot of people love seeing Hayden Christensen as Vader / Anakin again, from the Obi-Wan series to Ahsoka. With that said, I'm looking at it through a different lens now. Ever since Gina Carano was fired, that was really the end of it for me, because I can take bad movies, and to a certain extent, I can take directors throwing shit at people for not liking particular characters or for not liking particular movies. I mean, it makes me rethink, like, do I really want to be giving my money to people who are basically insulting me? Not really something I really want to do, but
for me, and I'm in the same boat with you right now. For me, the thing that made me it's almost similar, that made me completely almost hate Star Wars now, is the thing that almost made me completely hate Star Wars now is meeting Ashley Eckstein, the girl that played Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And she was there at a convention. She was awesome. She was the last celebrity there. She literally would not leave until she met every single person that was there at the convention. She wanted to meet them all, take photos with them, have conversations with them. I talked to her for like 6 minutes. Literally, we were like just having like a conversation about Star Wars. She was just there to just talk and just be there with the fans. And so I talked with her, and she talked about how disappointed she was that this girl who invented the character of Ahsoka, who everyone knows of when they think of Ahsoka. She says it would have been fine, like if they, for me to say no or whatever, or for me to have that chance, but Lucasfilm never gave her the opportunity to say yes or no. They just recasted her without letting her know, and they never called her to say, "Hey, do you want to be Ahsoka in live action for this animated series? If not, we can make you be a cameo as some other character, something like that, but just put you in it because, you made this character." Nothing like that. They just recasted her with someone who isn't even as good. She's boring as hell as Ahsoka. But like I never watched Ahsoka because I was telling her, I'm like, well, then I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to support that show if it's what they did to you. Like, you invented this character, and to have them not even reach out to you and ask, hey, would you be willing? Are you interested in doing this in live action? Because I know live action can be different than animated, but
that's one of my things with Creed 3. I mean, I still support. I watched it and everything, but I mean, they cut Stallone right out of the. They just said, no, we're not doing anything you want to do. This, you're not even going to be part of this, and so that's why he has the send off in Creed 2. And Michael V. Jordan pretty much just said, this is the guy who knows Rocky, knows this franchise, has written every line, every comma, every period. And it's.
I mean, heck, though, this actress, she was such a big fan of the role. She had braids when I met her, and she colored her braids to look like Ahsoka. That's how big of just a fan this girl was of just that character, and just
was it an appearance thing? Is it like does she?
I mean, with what they can do with makeup nowadays, they can make her look like Ahsoka. It's not like if that's like.
Well, shit, dude. Look at what cosplayers do.
Yeah,
like I've seen cosplayers pull off the Ahsoka look better than what we actually have. For me, and this is like a word of encouragement for anyone who has been dissatisfied or just disgusted with what Star Wars is. I can watch all the first 6 Star Wars movies, and I'll even throw Rogue One in there because Rogue One is the best handled Disney era Star Wars film that they've made.
Easily.
I can watch those films and not have to think about anything else that they've made because I can separate it. I can tell the difference in tone and what really fits. I don't have to watch 7 through 9. With that said, I will still acknowledge its existence. I just won't call it Star Wars. I call it Disney Wars because it's so tonally different. The characters and how they're handled, it's disgusting. Look, I was willing to give Mandalorian a chance because that trailer for The Mandalorian and seeing this character, it was really intriguing. And then getting introduced to Cara Dune right behind me, I liked her character. At first, I was a little hesitant because of what we had been given with the female characters. I thought, oh my God, is this going to be another girl boss going to over-dominate? And she didn't turn out to be that way too much.
Yeah, I liked her. I liked her too.
And then when it was announced that she was fired from Lucasfilm, and she didn't even find out through official channels, she found out basically the same way we did. That's where I said enough is enough. Because at that point, it's no longer about bad movies. It's about firing somebody for having an opinion or belief that is contradictory to the corporate viewpoint that they had. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't support it.
See, and that's what I'm saying is like, even like the fact that she didn't know about it ahead of time. That's the thing is, even if they were like saying, hey, Ashley, we love you as the animated Ahsoka, but for live action, we just wanted you to know it doesn't fit our vision. We're going to go with someone else, but we would still like you to be on board with the show, stuff like that. That's one thing. They didn't do any of that. She just wakes up. She just wakes up in the news, apparently. She was telling me that she just wakes up in the news and sees Rosario Dawson playing live action Ahsoka, all this stuff. And she's like, wait, what? She's like, I never was told this. I never was, no one mentioned this to me.
The message. The message, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we've said before. It's like what you said, J-Man, that when we talk about these franchises and we talk about the bad aspects of them, it's not because we hate the franchise. Because if we hated the franchise in general, then we would just say, "Oh, all the movies suck," right? That's saying you don't like the franchise or hating it. I think that the terms hate or toxic fan they've been overused and abused so much that they lost their meaning. Because you take someone like me who doesn't appreciate what they did in the sequel trilogy, and someone that loves those films is going to call me toxic, or that I'm not a true Star Wars fan. I'm not going to say that if you like the sequel trilogy that you're not a real Star Wars fan. That's unfair, because you obviously fell in love with the franchise that I fell in love with. You saw the 6 films, you like Star Wars. It's just we have a bit of conflict of taste when it comes to the sequel trilogy, because I don't see them as Star Wars films because of how poorly made they are, how they didn't take real risks while also maintaining respect in a previously owned franchise, right? If they had done something different, because they excommunicated the expanded universe material, that was including a bunch of comics, novels, books. There was an entire other universe that was connected to Star Wars, the expanding universe. It was like a side dish to enjoy alongside the George Lucas Star Wars saga, right? And when Disney bought the franchise, they basically relegated that to like a small little corner of the galaxy. And it's like, oh, this is what is referred to as legends, what if stories. And they give us this sequel trilogy that takes so many aspects from that expanded universe. Instead of doing a better adaptation, or giving us characters that we can be invested in. I mean, think about this. Giving us a character that is a stormtrooper and going into that mindset of, okay, how does a stormtrooper operate and function in this empire? That sounds like a really cool story. And then to have him turn, right, to turn his back on the empire, that sounds intriguing. It sounds like something we haven't seen before, because we really haven't, unless you go into some expanding universe material, in which case there have been stories like that told. It's just, not only do they insult the legacy characters, but the new characters we're given are even treated like crap. Because what happens to Finn? Ray! That is literally what he's known for now. Ray!
They should have killed it. They should have killed him off in The Last Jedi. He had his final moment there. He was about to save he was about to save everyone there when he was going to sacrifice himself by ramming into that machine. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like an end to his arc. He's going to be the hero here. And then, nope, Rose had to come in there and ruin it. And I was like, okay, so he just made his character.
It was twofold pointless. You know why? Because not only was he not able to sacrifice himself, but the weapon that was supposedly going to kill everybody in that base, it actually just blew a hole in the door. There was like no casualties. So in the end, it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, but Rian Johnson, he's so good. He Star Wars Last Jedi, it's so good. I mean, it's the movie that divided people in the fandom. It's the first and so far only movie I have ever walked out of the theater before it was finished. Like, before it got to the end credits, I walked out. I left my father and Carter behind. I'm like, fuck this. I got my drink. I went out. I literally sat in the back of our truck. I didn't even go inside the truck. I was sitting outside. It was like 40 degrees. It was drizzling outside. I'm just sitting there with my drink, just thinking about what I had just witnessed. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no coming back from this. And I was right. Rise of Skywalker came out, and we get Palpatine back. And, oh, how did he come back? The dark side of the Force is a pathway to...
We don't know.
Some consider it. They literally recycle a line he said in Revenge of the Sith to explain how he came back, and it's not even a proper explanation.
Yeah, you really gotta be careful. Like, I mean, like I said with Planet of the Apes, one thing I really liked is like Matt Reeves comes in, he sticks with the original vision, like the original. He didn't fuck with anything. He went, okay, this is 10 years later, Dawn of the Apes. Then it's him doing the third one. That's why it worked. Same vision all the way through. You know what I mean? And I think, but the writers were really good too. The writers were all on the same page. But holy shit, we got to move on though, guys. We have to move on.
Yeah.
Nick, you're number one.
Well, Wolfman, you want to go first since you have to go soon?
Yeah, sure. And I also don't want to. It would give me a limit because I know if I talk about my number one, and I'm like last, I would talk about it for like an hour. So this gives me a limit to talk about it in a decent amount of time. So of course, my number one. I'd be foolish to say to not say my number one is the Middle-earth Saga. Yeah, I'm saying the Middle-earth Saga because while they're not nearly as good, they are part of the world, and it's like what Jamie said about being in like just thrown into that world, and just being a part of that Planet of the Apes world. Anytime you really put me into almost any time you put my power is something else entirely, but almost every time you put me into that world of Middle Earth, I'm gonna be there just like in awe of it and just like wanting to almost live there. It's like this. I love the world of Middle Earth. So the Hobbit movies, I still have an appreciation for. Yes, they are not the Lord of the Rings, but I still have an appreciation for them because they're Middle Earth and they're not whatever Rings of Power was. So that's why I will say the Hobbits at least still respect Lord of the Rings. That's the thing. They, like we were talking about with respecting the franchises. They at least still respect the Lord of the Rings movies. The Lord of the Rings of Power didn't even respect them. That's the thing. It didn't respect what came before. So that's why I wasn't a fan of Rings of Power. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy, however, is on another level. I've said this many times, and y'all know it. My number one movie of all time is the Lord of the Rings trilogy because I combine it. I consider that to be one big epic movie because anytime I watch one, I gotta watch them all. It's my favorite movie of all time. When I was a little kid, a young kid back in like 2003. I know I'm young. But when I was a young kid back in 2003, and I went to go see Return of the King in theaters, I remember that's where my love of cinema started to become like a thing because I was watching it and just blown away by the spectacle and what it was able to do and what it was able to achieve. And I actually watched that one first because I was young. And I went and then watched the others later and then watched them all together. And then now, years later, I watched the extended editions. I saw the extended editions of Return of the King in theaters. That was an experience. That was awesome. So, like, these movies to me have had just such an impact. All the characters have their own kinds of dynamics to them. You care for every one of them. The greatest redemption arc, maybe since Darth Vader, is Boromir in Fellowship of the Ring. This man who's conflicted. He is tempted by this power, by Sauron, and he doesn't give into that. He gives his life to save all those around him, and just such an emotional fight. It's beautiful.
Poor Ned Stark.
The character arcs are really good in that thing, man. From Samwise, the Frodo to everyone.
Samwise is the friend everyone needs. Like seriously, like
the real hero.
Or what you should say is Samwise is the person we all should aspire to be.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's the true hero.
And
Daner, I would live in Hobbiton. I just love that.
Yeah, I was going to say the Shire is where I was going to live.
The Shire,
because that's just something I actually want to. It is literally on my bucket list. My girlfriend wants to go to. If we ever get married, she says she wants to go to Bahamas for our honeymoon. I want to go to New Zealand just so I can visit the Shire houses. That's literally the reason why I want to go there because
Helm's Deep. Come on.
I think I'd want to go to Rivendell. I love the waterfall.
Yes,
That's
Yeah,
true.
that was
beautiful.
also a
Yeah.
great location.
Realistically, that would be the nicest place.
Yeah, all right.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know, yeah, like I said, this is a world that just Peter Jackson was able. The reason why Return of the King is the most Oscar wins in history is because of just not only is it a big spectacle, but it's just a fantastic story all around, and that's what I feel like the show Rings of Power, and that's what I feel like Star Wars and all this stuff has been losing on, is they've been trying to focus on appealing to a modern audience and not understanding that a modern audience wants good stories. That's what they want. And
also just know your audience.
yeah.
Know who the hell your audience is.
Yeah, because none of these stories were meant to target a main audience.
Yeah.
At the time when they came out.
Yeah, exactly. They were meant to target everyone, and that's why everyone you talk to pretty much loves Lord of the Rings, because it can appeal to someone who's older, it can appeal to someone who's younger, it can appeal to heck, I collected all the action figures growing up. I was that kid who played with all the action figures and everything like that. And then
it's part of my collection.
And
I
still,
have the figures that came out. Yeah,
exactly. And I still like love them even more as an adult. It's just, yeah, these films will forever hold a special place in my heart. And
that's awesome, man. It's a great story.
Is my number one.
Shit.
Yeah, but I do have to be going.
That's all right, buddy. I know we kind of went late.
Before you go, I want to show you this. So a coworker of mine knows I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. She got me this glass cup for Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, sweet.
Dude, that's so amazing. I love the embossed.
Here, let me see if I can get a better light on it, because you have Arwen right there.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's I can see that. That's awesome.
Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Which guys, just telling you, write a good female character, like with
like Alita Battle Angel. She was a great character.
Alita Battle Angel. That's all it is. It's just write a good character. That's what why Arwen was awesome.
There's a lot of great female characters, man. There's a lot of good ones, man.
I think the best female characters are written without gender in mind. It's just,
Yeah, it's just let's just make this character, because to me, a character is someone who not only are you connected with, but you can almost see yourself reflected into that character.
Like relatable.
Or have like those traits to them where you can relate to them on some aspect, and no matter the gender. And that's what makes a good character, like a good character, I feel. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, guys. So thank you for having me. This was really, really fun. I enjoy all these franchises. I don't know if I'll have all the same 5 tomorrow, but right now I will stick with these 5 in case anyone's jumping in late. My number 5 was Mission Impossible. 4 was Star Wars. 3 was Toy Story. 2 was, what was 2 again? Oh, Scream. Scream. And then 1 was Lord of the Rings / The Hobbit / just Middle Earth. That's not Rings of Power. So that was and they are making apparently they're making a new like animated Lord of the Rings movie coming out next year. I don't know how to feel about that. I
think it's one of those things where you should just leave it alone.
Yeah,
I think it should be left alone. I don't even think people even care if they even do any. Like, is there even?
Yeah. Well, I mean, after Rings of Power did what they did, I mean, what I look at is Rings of Power is Rings of Power comes into your living room, takes a shit right there, and then walks out. That's what it is. That's what they did. Because I mean, at the end of the day,
sounds unfortunate.
They received a lot of backlash from Rings of Power. The marketing, it was getting torn apart on YouTube. So much so they had to turn off comments and limit just like obviously the dislike button is gone, but people were commenting and they were making just meme jokes out of some of the scenes. It was bad. Like the backlash that they received was legendary.
And yet somehow they're still making a season 2, and they still think that's just people are still. I'm not going to watch it, and I'm one of the biggest Lord of the Rings fans out there. So if I'm not going to watch it, and many other big Lord of the Rings fans aren't going to watch it, then I don't know what it's. Yeah,
what's the point?
Because it's one thing to be completely off, like the fact Battle of the Five Armies was a 2.5-hour movie based on 5 pages of a book. It's one thing to do something like that, but at least still stay true to the nature of the franchise.
Right.
It's another thing to completely disrespect someone like Galadriel, to disrespect someone like Sauron, to disrespect all these other characters that have been in this franchise, who started this franchise from the beginning, and just to ruin their character.
Don't forget about Gandalf, because he's in there.
Oh God!
You never fucking knew it.
When they did with Gandalf too, it's just like that's talk about disrespecting a character. What you feel for Luke Skywalker in Rise of Jedi, I feel for all my Lord of the Rings people for in Rings of Power. I'm just like it's bad.
That's right. They got Jake Skywalkered. There's a new term for you. They got Jake Skywalker.
Oh God. Yeah, great story, Wolfman. Great story. I know you've always been a big Lord of the Rings fan, so
absolutely
awesome.
So yeah, guys, I'll be heading off, but because I have to be heading out here soon. But
that's all right.
You guys can find me on my YouTube channel, Megamoviez. The cat is going to be a part of it.
All the links are in the description, everyone.
Yes, so you can subscribe there. I have some fun stuff coming up for the Thanksgiving season. Of course, I'm still finishing up my festival reviews. I'll be sending those out shortly. But then also, I have I'm going to be doing a ranking of Thanksgiving movies some point on Thanksgiving Day, so that'll be kind of fun. And then I do these monthly drinking games with a friend of mine. And so this year we're going to be doing, or this month, we're going to be doing Thanksgiving 3. So we did Thanksgiving last year, which was our worst one. It was 7 or 8 beers in. It was bad. And that's a 66-minute movie. So it's bad when it's that many. And so so this one's an hour and a half. So this one's, I'm afraid it's going to kill us. And so it'll be definitely entertaining to watch. That's for sure. So be there sometime in November. I have to work out what weekend we're doing it, but yeah. And then I have some other things planned for the holidays. So just be on the lookout for all that.
Excellent.
And much more. So yeah, guys.
Excellent. All right. We'll see you later, buddy.
Yeah. See you.
See y'all later.
Have a good one. Oh God! Now we're a little off now.
Let me fix this. I can get a. Oh, what I have to do here? These are all ones I've been pulling with.
Oh.
Close-ups.
No, let me fix this here. No, that's not gonna work. Let's get rid of that. I will just go there. That's fine. Yeah, Dick, you're number 1.
Okay. The only franchise I didn't mention yet is Friday the 13th.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah. Maybe not the best in consistency or quality, but even the bad ones I'm returning to every time. There's a son about Jason Voorhees that I'm in love with. He's just such an interesting character. the kills are always great. Obviously, Tom Savini being there for a few of the films, and yeah, the iconic, uh, obviously the hockey mask, but the bag over the head, and just all the looks he had over the years. I'm just so fascinated with the changes that the franchise just keeps going through. It's just something that mesmerizes me in a weird way. um, but yeah, it's obviously not a smart, clever, thoughtful franchise when it comes to the story, but I really do enjoy the characters for the most part and the awesome kills. Obviously, like I said, Jason and his mom, the dynamic there, and the atmosphere in the earlier films, really great. I think all the 80s films are a pass for me, even though some of them, like part 5 and 8, are very cheesy and have a lot of flaws to them, but the rewatch value is just there for me. And that's what keeps me coming back. It's just entertaining. I don't know. I don't know any other way to say it. Like I said, my top 5 is not in order, whatever. This maybe isn't my favorite franchise of all time, but it's definitely up there. But yeah, I just have such a fun time with it. At the time when Freddy vs. Jason came out, it's not definitely not the best movie in the franchise, but it really gave me that passion to go seek out more of these films, because I only ever seen part 3 and Goes to Hell at the time when I seen Freddy vs. Jason. And yeah, it's just a fun franchise. It's dumb fun, but it's
fun, man. It's fun in this right in the summertime too. It's just,
exactly.
There's always somebody doing something Friday the 13th in the summer. It's just it feels like a big event now. Like especially on Friday the 13th, we all look, oh, what am I gonna do this year on my YouTube channel for Friday the 13th?
Right.
You know what I mean? What can I do? We got to do something good. We got to, like this year, I did my top 50 Friday the 13th kills, and someone else was doing this, someone else was doing that. So I just get excited for it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it
like
was
an
kind of
event.
perfect. It was kind of perfect this year because we had a Friday the 13th on Halloween
in October.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's not the summer, but I mean, one of the things I really love about Friday the 13th is that you can pretty much just go into any of the films and have a good time for the most part. I mean, for me, it's between part 4 and part 6 as far as what's my favorite.
Same.
That's kind of consistent with a lot of people, I find. I think it's just because part 4 gave us a really good start to a trilogy where you were following the closest we would get to a sort of Laurie Strode equivalent. It's actually why I have Friday the 13th my honorable mentions and not Halloween, because for me, Halloween has maybe 2 good movies in the franchise. But for Friday the 13th, I can pretty much enjoy all of them, with the exception of maybe Jason Goes to Hell to a certain extent, and Jason X. But for the most part, most of the films in the franchise, I can sit down and watch. Like I can watch the original, I can watch part 2, 3. There's something appealing to it. Like it's my first proper horror franchise. That's why I keep going back to it, because my introduction to horror was Friday the 13th. Like I watched John Carpenter's The Fog. That was my first horror film. Then I watched Silver Bullet. So those were the 2 horror films that I watched as a kid. But when I got into my late teens, Friday the 13th was the first proper horror franchise I got into, and I've been in love with it ever since. And because Halloween is responsible for starting that sort of trend, the problem is that it started copying its copiers, right?
Right. With part 2.
I mean, it got to the point where it's like, shit, these movies feel like Friday the 13th. Why don't I just go watch Friday the 13th? You know, it's like they were, at least with Friday the 13th, they knew what they were. They knew what they were, and they were having fun with it. And I can appreciate that. With Halloween, I always saw it as more serious. It was much more story driven with creepy atmosphere and the mystery behind Michael Myers. Whereas Friday the 13th, it had that. Don't get me wrong. It's just, it was also dumb fun.
Yeah.
It's more easy to screw up the Halloween timeline and story where, like you said, Friday the 13th, where they knew what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's It's awesome, man. It's just awesome. Love Friday 13th. In fact, when I met Kimberly Beck on last weekend, I said, you're the greatest final girl. I don't understand why people don't love this character as much as I do. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that." We went and we had a good discussion about her character. And I said, I have this idea that in my mind, Trish Jarvis became like an FBI agent who tracks down like killers in New York. And she became like this. She goes, "I really like that." And I go, "Yeah." And she comes back to Crystal Lake to visit Tommy and have this whole kind of thing planned out in my head. And she goes, "They wanted me to come." I was asked a couple times, but she said I was just so busy with other things that I just couldn't come back. She says, but I was like, "Oh, see," I told her I didn't even know that you were even asked to come back. That's
Right.
kind of cool to hear that they wanted her, because I always feel like there's Tommy, but where is she?
Yeah.
Like I feel like she would have been right in the forefront, still looking after her younger brother.
It would be cool to
No,
see her and Tom Matthews in a Friday fan film or just a film in
yeah.
general.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that she couldn't come back and stuff like that. But I really like her, and
Hmm.
yeah, amazing. Friday 13th was awesome. All right, you guys know what number one is. I don't. What am I doing here,
Dum
man?
da da
Like
dum da
fucking.
da dum da da
No, no, no.
dum dum.
Yeah, man. I mean, Rocky is the reason I even love film. I mean, I saw it at such a young age. Granted, it was like I remember watching Rocky 3 more than any of them when I was a kid. I went back to my dad said when I was really young. No, Rocky 1. It's where he's like this. He's bad. He's a street guy. He's breaking thumbs and. Oh, okay. I went and watched Rocky 1. I loved it ever since. It's my favorite movie of all time, man. Favorite franchise. It's a character that has really crossed this realm of fiction into reality. Like you almost, if I was to go to Philadelphia, I would expect Rocky to come around the corner and go, "Yo, what's up?" and kind of thing. Like he's the only movie character I can think of that does that. I
Hmm.
can't think of another movie character where I think it's real and he feels like a friend. He feels like your best friend, And I think with the original movie, it's because you're with him all the time. Well, while
Mhm.
he's walking, he's up alone in his apartment talking to pets and everything, and then
Hmm.
you're just with him, seeing them go everywhere. And it's a character study. It's a great character study. It parallels Stallone's life. If you watch that Slide documentary, he talks about that. Um, he talks about how Rocky was this underdog getting a shot at the title. Him as an actor was his shot. That was like the parallel, and it's a beautiful parallel, and it's consistent through the franchise. And there's not a weak movie in this. Even 5 is considered the
Hmm.
worst. Not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie at all. It just doesn't land as well. Obviously, it's probably my least favorite out of the first 6, but I love it. I mean, just the stories I hear in the Rocky bubble, I follow. We all talk about the stories you hear of people being inspired by this character and how they've beat things like cancer. They've and people who have been like they've they've put themselves on workout programs, and this one character inspires them so much.
Yeah, they
And there's so much.
overcome.
Yeah, they overcome, and you've been knocked down and you get back up again, and this character has so much hope with him, and he's so relatable. The reason why he's relatable is because he has struggled, he has failed,
Hmm.
and he overcomes, and we can all relate to that. And he's the greatest character of all time, man, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I wanted to be Rocky when I was young, and there's not. I mean, this is not a franchise I watch this once a year. I watch this 6 times a year. Like there's Rocky is always on, and I'll do a shameless plug right now of my watch party on Monday, starting Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This could be a lot of fun. I always like talking Rocky, and to watch the movie and to be able to talk to you guys is going to be awesome. So look out for that, guys, on coming up on Monday. But yeah, I don't know what I've already reviewed the first 5 movies. I talk about this all the time on my channel. Um, Rambo is a more negative character and a more pessimistic character. Rocky's an optimistic character. They're very different, and how Stallone can, he always reverts back to these two. Whenever he's in a funk, he'll make another Rambo or he'll make another Rocky. Probably the last we'll see, but
I'll have to
timeless.
say, out of franchises, probably the most consistent in quality out of anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And they're so emotional. They have so much heart, right? And even Creed 1 and 2 are fairly decent, although I think Rocky Balboa is such a great ending. Kind of like what Caleb says about John Rambo. And Caleb will be with me on Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa, so I'm very interested to see what Caleb thinks of Rocky Balboa.
Yeah,
because
I still
it's
have
a
to
character.
get through,
You got to watch Rocky 4.
Yeah.
You got to go through 4 first. But I'm interested to see Caleb watch this live and see his reactions, because it's a character that before we got Halloween 2018 and bringing Indiana Jones back and sending him off and all that, Stallone was doing this in 2006. He brought a character back that we haven't seen in 16 years. And it was just like, wow, is this still going to work? Still works, man.
Kind of like Psycho 2, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It just happened to work.
Yep, it happened to work, and Stallone just knows the character so well. He wrote him, and the character is very much him. You know what I mean? It's how he channeled everything. Watch the Slide documentary, you guys. It's fantastic. Even if you're watching after the fact, go watch the Slide documentary. You see the reasons why he did things, and he essentially created. He was so uncastable. No one would cast him in anything because of his droopy eyes. He had a slur, because half his face is paralyzed. He created a character. He said, "I'm going to create my own character to play," and that's essentially what he did. The script was so good, they wanted to buy it, and he says, "Only if I star in it." And I mean, you can't do that now.
Yeah,
there's no entrepreneurship now in Hollywood. It could never. Even Stallone says that could never happen now.
Actually, it's actually a really good positive message because of the decline in quality that's been going on in Hollywood, and it's not just Marvel films, because I think it's a sort of fatigue of getting so much in such a short period of time that it's quantity over quality, and just the fact that there's a sort of disrespect happening towards fans, when they go and they say, well, man, this isn't as good as it could have been, or it's not as good as what was done previously. People are starting to make their own films. And I think that as of right now, there's a sort of cultural shift happening where, okay, like for Friday the 13th, you have people making fan films because the creators, they're not making these films.
They're hungry for them.
Yeah. And so it's like, fine, you don't want to do it, I'll do it myself. So I think that, taking inspiration from Stallone to create your own characters and forge your own path. I think for me, based on what I've seen of Rocky so far, is that it's an authentic character. That what makes him authentic is that you have a man who has a story to tell. He's making this character of his own volition. He wants to tell this story based on his own experiences.
Yeah, it feels personal.
That gives more authenticity. And then you kind of think to yourself, man, you can sort of picture yourself in some of these situations, and you can connect to those characters. Those are the best kinds of characters. The characters that you can relate to on a personal level,
Yeah, and his daughters say that on their podcast and that the show about their family. They said, my father, he created his own kingdom. Like they didn't out of nothing. He was nothing. Nothing. No one would touch this guy. And he created this character and forged. That's what he talks about in the documentary. It's how he forged his own. And all of a sudden, Rocky was a hit overnight. He became a hit overnight. He was all of a sudden, he was big overnight, like literally overnight. Right? And what can you say? That the iconic things in that movie. I mean, the best movie scene I've ever seen is in Rocky, and that's round 14. It's the best movie scene like if I say, what's your favorite movie scene? I could easily say that one because Apollo is a metaphor for life. You know, he knocks Rocky down and Rocky just gets back up and Apollo's just like, who is this person? I've just beat him to a pulp. Life beats us down. He gets back up, and you know it's a love story. It's that's what it is. He doesn't care if anyone's proud of him. Is Adrian proud of me? I want that woman to be proud of me. That's who I want to be proud of me. And it's I can't, I could go on about this character, but yeah, that's a good thing we didn't do a top 10, man. We'd be here for another 3 hours.
Right.
But yeah, I love Rocky. It's awesome. So you two, thanks for joining me tonight. Everyone in the chat who came out, thank you. Caleb, you go first. What do you got coming up, buddy?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say once again, congratulations on 1 year of your channel.
Yeah.
You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So with what we have coming up, tomorrow night, me and Dana are going to be joining Chris Snyder's channel, Movie Misfits. We're going to be doing a watch along of Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Nice.
It's an anticipation for the animated series they have coming up on Netflix. That's going to be basically retelling the story. Me and Chris are sort of bonding over Scott Pilgrim. It's a film that I saw in theaters, and it was kind of weird at the time, but I was like, I kind of like this. It has a video game feel to it. It has some pretty charming characters. It has a really cool female character in Ramona Flowers with a really cool hairstyle. And it's a movie that I actually find myself rewatching a couple times a year. I kind of get into one of those moods. I'm like, I'm kind of in a Scott Pilgrim mood. And it just so happens that now they're going to be coming out with a series. So to sort of celebrate, we're going to be doing a watch along of that tomorrow. I'm also working on a little bit of announcement here. I'm doing a Hellraiser review series.
I saw that, yeah.
Style of my Halloween review series when we did Hollow Scream. So that's going to be coming up here probably, I want to say in December and early January is when things are really going to start kicking on for that. This Thursday, we're bringing back the War on Pop Culture. That series has been on hiatus for a bit, but now we're sort of ready to bring that back in. And that's pretty much it. What we have coming up.
Nice. Nick, you, buddy? I know you got a lot of stuff coming up.
Oh, I know. Tomorrow, I'm supposed to be doing a Creepshow 2 segment ranking.
Nice.
Paranormal Activity franchise ranking coming up.
We're on the 5th. We just watched the 5th one.
The 5th
the wife
one,
and I. Or the fucking time travel shit, which I liked, actually. I liked that aspect, actually. I thought that was kind of a neat idea. Not sure if it's executed as well, but anyways, no, seriously, like they're actually kind of fun to go through.
They're interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And also, I plan on doing all the Saw and Rocky / Creed movies in November, so hopefully that all gets done.
We may line up then, buddy. Because I got the big one coming here. The top 50 Rocky franchise moments, and I think I'm actually going to split it into 2 videos. There'll be a part 1 and a part 2, because I'm going to talk about every moment. So
okay, yeah.
So it's coming. I need to work on that. I got the big Rocky Watch Party series this November, probably going to bleed into December. I just finished Rocky Balboa review. I got to edit it. Then I'll be reviewing Creed 1, Creed 2, Creed 3, then the big ranking. So we may line up on that, buddy. And I have a new show coming next week, everyone. So Garrett, from Born to Be Rad, it's called Unwind and Rewind, and this is 80s movies talking about people's favorite 80s movies, and just the impact on pop culture it had, why it's such a great decade, the ins and outs of it, all that kind of stuff. It's gonna be live. This will be a late show, 10 p.m. next Thursday. But I'm excited. I want to fill out some more guests. So if you're a content creator or an 80s fan, just hook me up and we can talk about it. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. That series. I plan to do one every other week or twice a month. I'd like to do that one. So just a one-on-one conversation that I think needs to be had with these 80s movies. I love that stuff. So awesome. All right, guys, that is it for this. Was a long one. I apologize if it was so long, but it was a lot of fun. There was some great conversations
It was.
tonight,
It was.
and I love this stuff. So just gonna say good night to everyone. If you're interested in YouTube memberships, please go to the channel and sign up. It's pretty cheap, $1.99 to $14.99, and you'll get movie reviews and rankings of your choice, all that kind of stuff, and be part of the community of growing the Backtrack Cinema Baker Team Badasses. So if you're interested, sign up for that. And I will see you next time, guys, and I will see you in the movies. Cheers.
Peace.